what people were these people tested upon? Like these biological, like what's called what's the word for research? Biological research. Who are they tested on? What society and what people? What age?
Humans.
No fucking shit, retard. But what type of people from what location and what age?
Criteria instead of trying to get on a high horse, bro.
Are you gonna yell?
I'll really fucking start packing the fuck out of you. I'll bring up a lot of personal shit about.
I don't give a fuck. You little dumb Mexican bitch. Shut the fuck up, nigga. You a dumb bitch. You're fucking third-year faggot. You're a third-year faggot. You're a third-year faggot. You're a third-year boomer faggot. 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 Third-year boomer faggot.
Hold on.
Third-year boomer faggot. Third-year boomer faggot.
Because I called your little fucking Superman a fucking pedophile, which he is.
Let's
I didn't serve him.
I did. Think you guys should like stick to like a common debate and not pack each other. Let's not call each other slurs. I apologize. Call each other slurs.
Hold on. I want to apologize.
Yeah, let's not call each other slurs.
And to Richard. I want to apologize for that. I apologize for the personal attacks. What I don't apologize for is calling Muhammad a pedophile, though. I will not.
Someone kick Fredbot.
Right. So
Okay, wait. So,
listen,
Forca.
can I respond now?
Yeah, sure. What were you gonna say? What were you gonna say to like what my point?
Yeah. So back to us saying, right? These terms, right? Like they are all like a prerequisite of what like we're considered like a child in adolescence or whatever, right?
Sure.
So they're like they're mind independent and they depend on the society itself, right? This is something that is
not necessarily.
When I'm not done. When you're
I'm saying like that.
Adult, when you're considered an adult, and when you're considered a child, varies in societies and places, right?
That's
what I'm
fine.
saying is none of these terms, right? Thank you. None of these terms would apply to the Arabia standards of what an adult and a child is.
Okay.
So when you're trying
Forca.
I'm not done.
No,
So
I
when you're
understand
trying
what
to
you're
apply,
saying.
but I'm not done. I'm on the same point. So when you're applying these like definitions of being a pedophile, right? These are arguments from presentism because you're giving your own moral values and your own moral like what's it called? What's the word for it?
So Forca, we shouldn't wait. So again, what you're implying here though is that we
Right.
shouldn't like upstart saying any. So, okay. So one,
Right.
your point that like definitions like change from group to group, you may see trends of people's understandings of definitions change from group to group, but definitions always fall under the individual as well as moral codes. Although you may have groups of people that tend
Repeat
to.
what you said.
Yeah. So definitions and morals, they all fall down to the individual, even though you can find trends among groups of people. For example, like when you and I say someone's fat, we may have like similar trends about like what we think fat means, but I might have a different idea in my head about what fat means than you do. And this also applies to morals. What you're kind of saying here is that like, you know, in one country, right, you have people that follow like some kind of, you know, moral standard or moral code, and that's different than ours. That's okay, but what we're saying is that we do not support that moral standard because it heavily conflicts with ours. And if you say, oh, well, everyone has their own moral system, yeah, that's fine. The Nazis had their own moral system that allowed them to kill the Jews, and that's against my moral system. It's the same thing. That, like, according to the most people's moral systems, and if you go by like basic morals that most people would agree intuitively for like basic fundamental things like we probably shouldn't like do harmful things to people. I would consider marrying a child or, you know, having sex with somebody who is under a certain
You're saying
age.
most though, right? But like how many? How many consider this line of logic? You're saying most. Because you do realize age of consent.
Okay,
like,
let's wait. Forca, let's go.
Wait, I'm not done.
Age of consent is like third
What
order.
considers age of consent, and what considers you an adult varies in society. And
Okay,
places.
Forca.
You do realize even in like Nigeria,
I understand.
age of consent is like 11, right?
And
they consider you an adult when you're 11.
Yeah, and I think that is probably not a good like way of defining it, and I can give reasons
for that. No, it is
because
because then we got to look into historical context. Where
wait, I don't. Wait, do you think? Wait, hold on. Wait, Demi, I got it. Trust me.
You're
do you think Forca? You just made a claim. Forca, you made a claim. Can I please attack the claim?
I'm not done with the claim. I'm not done with the claim.
No, you made it. No, you made a claim, and now you're
though.
making a claim extrapolating off of your first
No, I'm on
claim.
the same claim. I'm on the same point. I haven't even finished it, bro. Can you calm down? Jax, calm down.
Because Forca, if you're just gonna bombard me with claims,
Jax,
I'm not
making multiple points though. I'm not shotgunning. I'm on the same claim.
Okay.
Okay, can you calm down?
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Fine.
Thank you. Right. Because then we gotta look into historical context, right? Because people, right, they had like a fucking like little pube, like literally one strain of pube, he was considered an adult back then. Because we're talking about the 400s, not the 1900s.
Okay, so my question is, then, based off of that, let's say, okay,
Right.
so let's say, right, so some people consider adults based on different things. I'm not disagreeing that that happens. My question is now going to be to you, for defining, like, who is an adult and who isn't, we should probably go into, like, what we think, like, quote-unquote adult should mean. Like, what do you think, like, an adult should be classified as for, like, a pragmatic definition, right? Usually I think of, like, an adult as somebody who's, like, mature enough for, like, self-governance. No, I'm not saying it varies in society. I'm saying, what do you think, for the purposes of this conversation, what do we think that a good utility of the word adult should mean? Like, what, like, so we have a definition that we can agree on.
When you're in puberty.
When you hit puberty. Wait, so my question is, so, okay, so when you're not considered a child, you are considered, so you're either a child or an adult. Do you not think that there is a middle ground between child and adult?
Yo, can I?
Not by the definition I'm applying to.
Okay, sure. So that's fine. Do you think that the age of consent should be applied based on somebody is an adult or not?
What'd you say?
Do you think that the age of consent should happen or be dependent on this factor? So my question is, again, so you think that when somebody hits puberty, they are allowed to, they have, like, the ability to consent?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, Lord. My next, hold on. I'm going to keep asking. What about hitting puberty makes you think that they can consent to sex?
What'd you say?
Can you hear me? Hello?
Because the reason that I'm arguing against the idea of that being a good reason is because when we talk about things like consent and we talk about things like the age of consent, it has nothing to do with when you fucking hit puberty or when your balls drop.
Mic, bro. Hold on 1 second.
It has nothing to do with when your balls drop. When we think of something like the age of consent, it usually has to do with something like mental maturity or mental, like, you know, understanding. So do you believe that a 9-year-old or somebody who
said, repeat what you said.
Okay, so since you said the age of consent should be dictated on when somebody hits puberty, what my question is now going to be is, well, kind of like why?
No, that's
because
just the
usually
physical
when,
aspect. That's just the physical aspect.
Hold on, wait.
But
Hold on.
you just said that.
Can I at least have my fucking argument back? Because this is like the
I'm
shit
not
that I
done with
started,
them, though.
Because I like, hold on, because like, I'm gonna be honest, Forka, there's a big issue with what you said. Because like he asked you you don't want to commit to it, that's fine. But this is just how it went. He asked you, what should we define like as an adult and like the age of consent for the purposes of this discussion? And then you said when someone hits puberty, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So then my question to you would be, are you okay with an 11-year-old having sex with a 50-year-old? Or not 11-year-old, 11-month-old? Because that can happen. That's a medical condition called precocious puberty, and it's happened as early as 11 months old in little girls. Are you okay with that?
Now?
Yeah.
All right. Anyways, right. Acid. It's just the physical aspect. That's what I said. Like a physical.
Okay, so like physically.
I'm not done. Okay. Oh my god, nigga, Key, shut up. Like physically, yeah, but not in a mental state, right? Because you got to take mental into account as long as it doesn't harm the person in question, right? And they can give consent, right? Then I guess sure. But
okay, so now I'm going to ask you.
I don't think an 11-month-old would be able to like apply all these like characteristics though.
Okay, wait. So we agree. My question is, now do you believe that a 9-year-old? Do you believe that? Okay, so let's go into like what weighs in on when people start thinking about if they can consent to sex. Do you believe that a 9-year-old, any 9-year-old, has the perspective to like weigh the consequences of potentially having a child or STDs or all the intricacies that are involved in sexual engagements?
Yeah. I think some varies, not all.
Okay. Right. So do you think that it would be probably a good idea based on like, okay, have you ever met a 9-year-old that you believe has the foresight? Or do you believe that there are 9-year-olds that exist? I'm not saying modally. Yeah, I'm not saying like it's like a modal like impossibility, right? It's not like contradictory within the laws of logic. But what do you think the likelihood is, and I want you to be honest here, of a 9-year-old who's able to, or even like I would say like a 14, 15-year-old would be able to start weighing the long-term effects of like having children or STDs or things like of such nature?
Hello.
What do you say?
Okay. Do you believe that someone who is 14 or like there is a good chance of somebody who is either the age of like, we'll say 15 or younger is going to be able to long term be like able to understand kind of the consequences of
It varies
things
by
like
the person.
STDs. I understand it varies by the person. That's not what I asked you. I
Right.
said in general, do you believe that this is the case? That like people of those age groups could, because we need to start making, because we do need to make laws about these things. So what do you think the age of consent should be? Because there is going to be a cutoff point. And
Will, mute your
obviously,
mic.
if we're talking about like mental maturity, right? There is
Yes.
like some
Can I
scale.
ask you a
Some
question?
people are going to be more ready to have sexual relationships than other people at younger ages, right?
That's
like,
fine.
Yeah. So my question is, where do you think the law should be? Because for me, right, there's
Kirby, mute your mic.
the general age of consent for when people I think can start weighing those
Right.
consequences would be probably around the age of 16, and then they shouldn't be able to have sex with people much older than them because of like weird relationship dynamic shit. So like again, like 16, and then like those people shouldn't be in relationships with people more than like 2 to 3 years older than them, and then like that applies to 17-year-olds as well. And then anyone who's having sex under that is just like weird shit is happening, and that's like all fucked. So
So can I
again,
respond now?
yeah, sure.
Am I gonna respond uninterruptedly?
I won't interrupt you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. At least you show like the same courtesy, unlike like that Mexican bum, right? Anyways, right? Back to us saying, this all varies depending on the person to begin with, right? And the general like what's called, I guess, consideration of what the age of consent is, right? As said, it varies with the society itself because, as I explained to you earlier, around everywhere in the entire world, right? The age of consent, or whenever you're considered an adult, varies with the society and the people, right? Some mature way faster, both physically and mentally, than other people would normally, right? But what I'm saying is, in the physical aspect, you're considered an adult because we're applying by the definitions back then, right? You're considered an adult when you even have pubes or when you hit puberty, right? That's the physical aspect. But what I told you as well, right, is the mental aspect as well, right? You have to be physically and mentally prepared to do what's called to understand what you're getting into, right? You're saying like, what rules will we have to dictate whatever or not you're considered an adult whenever this is like legally fine, or whatever or not this is considered like the boundaries of like pedophilia, or whatever or not you're a child, or whatever or not you're an adult, right? As said, because you guys were making these like, oh, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is like a pedophile and shit like that, right? Claims. But you do realize that every female, right, is what's it called, essentially inspected by doctors and people of authority to consider whether or not they're mentally and physically all right. So I think people of authority, such as doctors, should be able to determine the biology of the person in question on whether or not physically and mentally they're prepared for this, along with the fact that it wouldn't inflict any harm.
Yo, can we go ahead and report this nigga?
Okay, yeah,
That's
sure.
pretty much it.
So, yeah,
Right.
sure. So, when we say one, it varies from person to
Also, can
person.
you unmute
for when,
Richard?
No, because you and I are having a good conversation. He was a spurg. So, when you say, first of all, it varies from person to person when people, like, come of, like, mental and physical maturity. I didn't disagree with that. And then you said, well, this age of consent thing, it varies from society to society on, like, the moral and ethical system. That also doesn't change anything from what I've said. The third thing is that you say, well, some people
Wait,
also
hold on.
mature,
Repeat what you said. Repeat what
yeah,
you said.
sure. So you bringing up the
Yeah.
fact that different people mature at different rates and
Wait.
different
Don't
societies have
speak.
different.
Don't speak for 1 sec. Don't speak. I'm just trying to check who's got that annoying ass background, bro.
No, yeah, you're good.
Oh, Amir.
Yeah.
Amir, mute yourself.
Amir, mute your mic.
All right, then I mute him. Go ahead.
I'm just gonna serve mute him. That's fine.
Right.
But the okay. So the first thing that you kind of brought up was it varies from person to person in terms of like when they are like physically and mentally mature enough to like start having sex. Well, hold on. Can you like stop doing the side comment thing? Because I don't think I did that to you. And it like throws me off track.
Bad. Go ahead.
No, yeah, you're good.
Go ahead.
So the first thing that you brought up is it varies from person to person. I don't disagree with that. Obviously, some people are going to be more mentally mature than other people, and some people are going to be more physically mature than other people at different age groups. Demi brought up the fact that even like 11-year-olds can start experiencing puberty, and by your definition, can become adults.
Yo, Richard, mute your mic, bro.
Yeah, I was gonna say loud ass keyboard, but the then you kind of said like, okay, well, also these kind of standards vary from society to society. Well, me and you, like, because personally, I don't really care what like Nigeria's. I'm talking with you, right? Like, I don't really care about like what another country's like age of consent thing is. I'm talking to you, and I'm trying to get through what you believe, right? Like, what do you think that these things should be? Because I think that is important. It's an internal thing, right? Me and you are having this conversation. And then the other thing is, well, you know, I don't think I'm going to fight your definition of adult, even though I think it is a little bit, like reductive. I don't think it necessarily matters for the point of the conversation, but just really quick, just a yes or no. Do you acknowledge that your definition allows for an 11-month-year-old to be considered an adult? Just like yes or no.
No, because I've already given you my definition of what considers an adult.
Not just the physical aspect. It has to be mental as well.
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. So then I would say, well, if you agree that there is probably some level of like mental maturity and physical maturity, I'm then going to ask you, because again, we need to just like, not just to make laws, but also just like generally, where do you think that kind of age hits, right? Because I might not be able to say something for all people, right? In theory, like somebody might give birth to like the ultimate, like, I don't know, like Dr. Manhattan, and they have like all of human knowledge at like, you know, the second they're conceived. Yeah. But like, you know, you would probably agree that there is some kind of like average age of when people like hit puberty and some sort of like average age of when people are mentally mature enough to consent to sex. My question would be, where do you kind of think that is, and then how do you make that judgment?
So, can I respond now?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, I said, right, it's like I brought up from like the beginning when like before Demi started like spreading this shit. This is just like an argument from like presentism, right? Because today's society, if I'm gonna put it blunt, are physically and mentally like not prepared to take upon what's called the grown-up things as they were back then, right? We're talking about like 5-year-olds or like 7-year-olds are able to hold like what's it called stores, talk with vendors and shit like that in like different languages, right? Which if you were to put like a 15-year-old in that situation right now, right? Obviously varying what's called depending on like the background of the person in question, he wouldn't be able to take upon that task, right? So today, obviously, like physically and mentally, you wouldn't be on the same intellectual level of like any other like average adult, right? If you're like 15 or 16, because as said, it varies in society and people, right? As of now, the age of consent, I don't know, right? It really could be anything at this point because it constantly changes with society. We know for 100 years ago, like in the U.S. in some states, you was legally allowed to marry and consummate the marriage with a 7-year-old. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
I think
that's not even like
bad.
far away.
Yeah,
that's not even far away.
And I think that's bad too, and I condemn that. So with your point of today's society, they're not as physically or mentally like prepared for it. So one, I don't think you fully meant the physically part because obviously I think we agree that children like grow at the same rate as they did probably 200, 300 years ago in terms of like when they hit puberty and such, right? That average age probably hasn't changed. But I understand with like what the argument that you're trying to make for mentally. And your thing is like kids worked stores and spoke different languages and you have all these examples of like, you know, kids doing like what we would associate with like more adult actions. I would actually say that this isn't even a great argument for it because the big reason that we don't see kids doing that in these kinds of days is not because they're incapable of doing it mentally, but more so that because we have child labor laws and we think that it's ethically wrong to be working children in that manner. Not that they don't have the capacity to, right? Obviously they do. I don't think children's like actual brain function have decreased or so you think that children's brain function has decreased since 600 years ago to where like their brain power is like lower?
Yeah.
So you why?
Oh my god.
Like
because
why do you think like the
children
brain
in question, right? Not they like associates themselves with like grown-ups and adults constantly having like intellectual conversations back and forth, even being able to hold them in different languages, right? But I also said it varies in society and people. Obviously, everybody's not equal. Somebody could be like physically mature at even like 3 years old or fucking 7 or even like late as 25.
Yeah,
you know?
sure. I'm not making that argument. What I'm saying is, do you
So
think that's
where we at right
just
now?
because you don't? Yeah, sure. What I'm asking you is just because you don't see that now, and also, you know, I was having pretty like complex conversations when I was young in a second language. I learned French very early on. I think that like the problem is that you're trying to make this argument that children are dumber now than they were 400 years ago, which and based off of an observation of, well, because kids were doing these things, then you need to imply that kids are not able to do these things, not that they don't. So just because I don't see kids working stores or don't see kids, having like philosophical conversations, even if it was like more common for that to be the case, my point is even kids who do that, we're not even talking about those kinds of like abilities. I'm talking about specifically the reasoning skills and the perspective to be able to weigh the consequence of sex long term. And if you're 9 years old, no matter how smart you are, you simply don't have the perspective, because even if you have the knowledge of something, perspective does matter in terms of, well, I'm going to explain. The reason I don't think that is because if you only have 9 years on this earth, you don't have long-term perspective yet, because you literally can't. You've only had 9 years. You've probably only been like actually conscious, or infantile dementia. Is it dementia, or I forget. Basically, when you're a kid and you forget everything, that starts about like 4 years old, I think. So they have about 5 years of like remembering and thinking and like actual like brain development and being able to think about things long term. When you were only 9 years old, maybe I can appeal like when you were a kid. When you were 9 and somebody said, it'll like you'll be ready for like something like when you're older, right? When you're older, or like when you're 13, like you really want to drive a car, right? And your parents might say like, okay, well, you can drive a car when you're 16, right? And that's like when you can drive. 16 when you're 13 feels like forever away. That feels so far away. And again, like when I'm talking about time perspective, you need to have time on Earth, even if you can cognitively rationalize it, right? So even if you can understand, okay, well, it's only 3 years away, and over the course of my life, it's not going to be that far away. Your actual mental perspective and how you feel is how most people are making decisions, right? You don't make decisions 9 times out of 10 on ration. You're going to be making these decisions on feeling and then post hoc rationalizing, especially if you haven't been taught like traditional philosophical thought to reason individual things. So again, like even if you were to say, well, they have the mental capacity to reason like whether or not they should or shouldn't have sex, I don't think they'd have the emotional capacity to do so.
Why?
Because they haven't been on Earth long enough. They haven't had enough like experiences and relationships with people and talks with people. When I'm in for example, like let's say I like am dating a girl in like middle school, right? The most things that I'm probably gonna do is like like hold her hand and shit, right? And that's like holy shit, like, or like maybe like a like quarter second like kiss or something, right? That was like most people's like relationship experiences in middle school. And then as you got older and as you got more kind of, relationship experience and more time talking to people and more, social experience, then I think that would, again, kind of like increase your ability to start having these things. Again, like it is obviously a sliding scale, like you had mentioned before. But regardless of the setting that you're in, you need to have accumulated those experiences, and I don't think you could have done that by like 14 years old, right? Like, do you think like
is that a question or a claim?
It's a claim. Like I don't. Yeah, right. It's a claim.
But you do realize even people that like what's it called? Well, first of all, right? As I said, I'm not really like shifting on like the stance of like the whole Aisha part, right? But as I said, right, you do realize that like statistically speaking, even like people who's had less what's called romantical like experiences even last longer in marriage. Like what's it called? What's the word for it? Arranged marriages have the highest percentage of literally sticking together even though only having one partner.
I don't think that's a good metric by
what's called mates for the rest of their life. They have a higher percentage of somebody like, let's say like Western society, right? We know that Western girls just go around, get dick down 50, 70 times, then settle down, right? But they still like, what's it called, in their marriages repeatedly. We know that Western society differ from like any other. Wait, can you hear me or?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I think my headset died.
No, I can hear you.
Give me 1 sec. If you speak, I cannot hear you, by the way. My headset died.
Can you hear me now?
No.
Oh, no, you can't.
Hello?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Where was that last point?
You were bringing up the marriage point. I know what you're, I know what you're gonna say. Can I like, because the whole thing is like, well, marriages like stay like for longer periods. One, I don't think that necessarily keeping and staying in a marriage is necessarily a good thing. And maybe this is just comes from like a different perspective, but I think that when you get more relationship experience, you kind of build up the tools to understand yourself better and also understand people better. I think you would probably agree that the more interactions that you have with people, the better understanding you would have of like, or at least like the better social skills that you would have. Would you generally agree with that? Like the more friends that you have and the more interaction with friends that you have, the better you are at like being a friend and like understanding like people. Would you like kind of agree with that?
Repeat what you said.
When you have like when you over time have
Right.
more friends, right?
Right.
And you have more experiences with friends and different people, would you generally like agree that you will be making like better decisions when it comes to friendships? And I'll get into the divorce thing after. Just like yes or no. Like
I think it would differ to people. Yes.
Sure,
and no.
it does. Yeah, sure. Some people are like retarded, but like generally more experienced in something makes you better at that thing. Is like kind of the point I'm making.
Yeah, it couldn't. Yeah.
Okay, so when we talk about divorce, I don't think divorce is a good like example for the actual quote unquote success of marriages. I think it's a little bit deeper than that. For example, let's say I marry somebody, and then as I marry them for longer and longer, and you know, as I stay with them, there might be like issues and problems that I have with them as like people, or like really foundational disagreements, which can lead to lots of upsetness and anger. I think that the thing that's happened in the West is people have gotten more and more experiences with people and realized more and more what they want in terms of like a quote unquote like perfect partner by having more relationships with people. You understand yourself better and you understand people better. So obviously, if you have a better understanding of that, you're going to I guess be more quote unquote picky about who you're in a relationship with. I don't think that whether or not like you've divorced or not necessarily indicates of how successful relationships are.
Can I just stop for 1 second? Like
Yeah,
I'm not interrupting your argument by making like another one. I just got one thing to say to like everybody in the chat, right? When we're done with this conversation, like me and Jax, like pretty friendly conversation, right? Everybody was talking shit about Islam. Keep the same energy when I bring up the 55 plus verses in Christianity, all right?
Oh no, I'm against Christianity too. I was gonna say,
no, I'm saying like
don't
me
mistake
and you,
me.
Like me and you can have like a normal conversation, right? But I'm saying everybody throwing these like small fucking like hits at like Christianity, what's called Islam and stuff like that. Wait until I bring up the Moses statements. That's all I'm saying.
No, yeah,
I was
gonna
wait
say.
until I bring up the Moses statements.
We don't care.
Oh yeah, bring up that Moses name.
Right. But I'm saying I'm specifically speaking to the Christians, then. So I'm not talking about like every person in the VC. That's it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jax.
Yeah, sure. I was gonna say, obviously, right. I'm anti like all of the big three Abrahamic religions. I think they're all fucked.
Goku isn't better.
Right.
But again, in terms of this, when we're talking about marriage, I don't think that the marriage success should be dependent on whether or not someone stays together, whether they're divorced. I think it more so has to do with whether or not both partners are happy, right? Two partners can stay together forever and, you know, they're not necessarily like happy. So I don't think marriage retention, like I understand like it could be an indicator, but like, do you understand why like the marriage retention doesn't necessarily like indicate what you're claiming? Because like you can have people stick. I've personally seen it. Like, you know, you go to school, right? You know, I went to school, and you know, I'd see like parents sitting next to each other. They like pretty obviously fucking hate each other. Or like adults, like if you like go to like a friend's house or something, they're like fucking mad, but they'll stay together for like the sake of like their kid or something, or like to make sure their kid has like a stable environment to grow up in. So like, would you agree that like marriage is like the retention of marriage rate probably isn't a good metric to determine like marriage happiness? And it's probably more intricate than that.
The succession of marriage, right? There's two definitions, right? One you brought up, and the second of like them sticking together and not what's called is getting a divorce, right? But what I'm talking about when I'm talking
there's
about
one
like
where it's like they
arranged
stay together
marriages
and they
and
have
stuff like that with the succession rate, is that these people, although they never met each other, they still some reason decided to love each other and still stick with the same opinion, right? Also, I don't know why we're talking about this Dr. Phil shit, right? Can we get into like the actual conversation in hand?
But yeah. So the only thing that I asked was, when it comes to marriage retention, do you think that entails a good marriage?
Yes.
Because, okay, so again, I'm going to ask you this. You can have marriages that are retained for a long period of time or extended period of time,
Right.
Why do you
No,
do you
I heard
think
what
that
you
if
said
both
about
yeah,
that,
if both people aren't happy
Right.
in that relationship, do you think that that's still a good marriage?
I think the majority are happy, right? And we know this because we can
Why?
look at like the Indian studies as well. There's Indian studies of what's called arranged marriages. They make in polls, right? Whether or not they love their partner or not, and it varies in an astronomical fucking like size difference, right, between them. What I'm saying is though, right? This conversation, I said, this is all like a prerequisite in the fact that like Aisha, peace be upon her, right, didn't have the same experience as like I don't know, the average 30-year-old fucking OnlyFans girl, like in fucking like the Western civilization, so she wouldn't have the same levels of like understanding in a mental state of what a marriagehood is, right? Is that kind of what you're trying to push?
Yeah, my whole thing is I don't think a 9-year-old is going to be able to. So one, personally, I think arranged marriages, you are neglecting the individual, of like when you start applying arranged marriages, period end of story. I foundationally disagree with that because I think you're rejecting the autonomy of the individual who is being arranged in marriage. So that might just be a foundational disagreement that we have. For example, like if I am a 9-year-old and I'm setting up for an arranged marriage and I say to my mom and dad, I don't want to get fucking married, right? And I'm forced to get married. I think that you're taking away the autonomy of that person. I think that's wrong from like the starting standpoint. And then the other thing is, I think it's wrong to, again, like force these kinds of long-term consequences onto somebody who cannot make those decisions yet, and they probably should make them for yourself. For example, like again, like unless you think that infinitely like your parents have more knowledge than you do and will always have more knowledge than you do and will always know what's better for you, but I don't even think that you would agree. I don't think that you would agree with that.
Is that a question or a claim?
Do you agree? Do you think that parents should have like ultimate authority over their children?
Until you're in a set state where you're like self-sufficient both like financially and mentally, yeah.
Okay.
I'm fine
Do you
with
think
that.
that parents should be making like long-term, potentially permanent decisions about like the relations of that child that are probably going to be highly personal, like who they would spend the rest of their life with?
If they know better than I do, yeah.
Well, not if they know better than you do. It's just like, do you think that parents like should be making those decisions for like should somebody who is not that person be making that decision for that person?
Yeah, I think parents should do that, yeah, because they have more experience with this set person in question, understand what they like and don't like. So yeah.
But don't you think that would
problem.
be, but don't you think that that should be more towards like the individual? Like, so yeah, the parents can have like an understanding of like the other person, but the individual has a better understanding of themselves than the parents do. And then
Of course, yeah.
and then like,
But does the
when
individual agree with the parent's decision?
well, it depends. If the individual agrees with the parents' decision, then like that's fine. But I'm talking about if the kid like disagrees with it, or both people disagree with it, because then it's not really.
Well, then it comes like
I-
to the car analogy that you brought up earlier, right? Like, yeah, the kid wants to drive a car when he's like 12, but the parent says no, you gotta wait until you're 16, right? Obviously, the kid knows what he wants to do, but the parent knows in the better interest of what this person have to do, right?
That's for whether or not they have the ability to or not to
Do they not like?
something. Well,
You have the ability to marry when you're 16,
so
right?
So this analogy kind of falls apart when it comes to Wait, how do we even get here?
I don't know. I was just following along because I was bored.
Okay.
I'm
We
still
probably
waiting
go.
on you to circle it back.
Okay, so we should probably like circle it back because I don't even remember how we got here.
You're trying to
I
like
guess
make the connection between like personal experience and like Aisha.
Okay, yeah, no, I just don't think that. I don't think that. Hold on, give me 2 seconds so I map out how to phrase this in my head, so I'm
No,
not
you
like
good.
stuttering all over myself, so I can give you like a clear and concise point.
Right? Well, halftime show while we wait on that, right? Did you guys know that Moses in the Old Testament, and I'm not misquoting it by the way, I'm saying it word for word, said that the revelations from God that he perceived was that you can kill all persons who are not Hebrews in a set field, kill every woman, every children, every man,
my
but
gosh,
keep the
buddy.
children.
Moses
Keep,
did not.
wait, I'm not done.
God
I'm not
never
done,
ordered
sir.
him to do that.
Keep
God
the
never,
children
God never ordered him
who
to
are
do that.
who have not laid with a man.
okay.
Wait, chill. I'm speaking. Keep the children who have not have been laid with a man.
Get 'em,
Children,
Leo,
by the way,
get 'em.
that's exactly what it says. Children
Yeah, so
for
yeah, so
yourselves
if you
as
actually-
sexual
Hey,
slaves.
hold on, because I
For
know who
yourself
can
as
use this
sexual
argument. If
slaves.
you
That's
actually
kind of
read that
bizarre,
scripture,
right? Like,
if you
where's the
actually
same
read that
energy? That's
scripture,
kind of bizarre,
it never
right?
says that God commanded him to do that.
You want me to
That was
give
all
you
that
that?
was
You want me to
said.
give Hebrew scholars telling you
God
that?
never commanded him to
You want
do
me to
that.
get? Wait, hold on. Are you saying God never told Moses to do so? Because I can give you the exact verse right now.
God told him to seek vengeance. That's what he told him to do. He
Oh
never
my
told him to
God.
kill the woman and children there. He never
Oh,
told him
wait,
to do
hold
that.
on. Give me a sec. I'll give you the verse. Give you the verse. Give me a
Wait,
sec.
Yeah,
Forca,
get the
Forca,
verse. And
Forca.
read the verses before that
Wait,
also.
Leo. We'll take this after.
Make sure to
We'll
read the
take this
verses
after.
before that, by the
I was
way.
gonna say,
Wait. Yeah,
y'all
calm
can
down,
do that
bitch.
after.
Go back to your conversation with Jack.
Yeah,
Stuff.
calm down, bitch. Yeah, calm down, bitch.
Okay, so the point that I am saying is, and I guess like I'll just like so we're on the same page of like what I believe. I
Right.
think that things like marriage, when you commit yourself to another person for a long period of time, there's a lot of when you have relationships, right? There's a lot of intricacies that I feel like are needed to understand yourself and to understand other people. And I don't think that any person can have the level of experiences that would be needed at the age of like even 14 to have a healthy and happy relationship the majority of the time.
Right. So then, wait, mute this guy's mic, bro.
Yeah, I got you.
Mr.
Yeah.
Senju, please.
So back to us
mute your
saying,
mic.
right?
I muted him.
What's it called? No, mute Demi's mic. That one that is like really loud. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, Demi.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah,
Yeah,
just mute Demi.
I'll mute
Yeah,
Demi
just-
for now.
yeah,
Just
thank
yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
All
Go
right,
ahead.
go.
yeah. So again,
Repeat what you
I
said,
don't-
because like
yeah, sure.
I don't know why, but like I,
I
lost
think
my
that
train of thought.
I think that to have have like a happy and healthy relationship, there are kind of things that everyone needs to go through in life, and I think one of those things that does allow for so like when you were saying like, oh well, you know, girls get like ran through in the West, right? Like these OnlyFans girls get like ran through in the West. Well,
Yeah.
I don't think that having more relationship experience and bad relationship experience is bad for the person. I think again by having bad relationships and having, you know, relationships that fail and by trial and error, you'll learn
Right.
more about yourself and you'll learn more about the things that you like and the things that you don't like. And I think that when you are in like 9 years old or 14 years old or 15 years old, you know, I don't think that you have the like capacity or specifically the experience to start making decisions like this. Like you don't have the experience to it. Even if you have the brain power. For example, like let's say there's a 25-year-old, right? And like on like some island and he's never been in contact with like a person before. That person, brain power wise, might have the full on mental maturity to, you know, do all the things that we're talking about. But social interactions don't have the same, like it's not the same as mental maturity, right? You have to be able to have these experiences with people and, you know, interact with people that will mature you in this way. It's not necessarily about, you know, raw age. It's about, you know, it's about the mind. And when you're 9 or when you're 14, I don't think that you have enough experience with relationships, even through what you've been saying with, you know, kids would be working markets earlier, or kids would be doing all of these things earlier. I don't think it gives them the kind of relationship perspective that would allow them to weigh the consequences of, again, like long-term like STD problems, and we're talking about modern day, but we can say like again like pregnancy, of like what it means to like, you know, have a kid and raise a kid. Like you don't have the life experience yet. It has nothing to do with like the ration or the ability or how smart the person is or anything like that. Well, it does, but like it's mostly the experience, the ability to apply that experience. That's my stance.
Yeah. Can I
And then
respond
I guess
now?
like, yeah, like what's your issue with like, yeah.
Yeah, so my issue with this, right? Or even like make a point. I do want to point out the fact that like, I did kind of point out what I meant by an adult and like what I meant about like mental and physical maturity, right? Along with the fact like you know with the doctors and stuff like that I brought up that they essentially determine the biological okay You gotta mean of like whatever or not you consider being an adult. That's something I brought up. I just want to bring that up. It's not really an additional point. Along with the fact that like we defined what like succession of marriages, right? So Aisha, radiallahu anha, right?
Wait, so just so we're clear on the succession of marriage, so we're clear on that definition. What do you believe a successful marriage is?
Well, I already responded. I said that succession of marriage have two definitions, right? It can apply, it can apply to both, right? Like the thing that you brought up about like a loving marriage, right? And like the contract, the thing I brought up about the contract between them, where like they stay together and doesn't like split. I think that both are fine.
Do you think that we should marry both of those terms as like what a successful marriage is? Because I think like if we think of like a successful marriage in our head, it would be a marriage where people stay together and both people are happy and loving in that relationship. Like they both are happy with that. Would you agree that that would be a good? Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's
just
fine.
So we have that. Okay, sweet.
Yeah, right. So what's it called? So back to what I was saying, right? You bring up a lot of these arguments, and all the arguments always start with the same thing, right? I think this is not the case. I don't think this is fine. I think that we should which is an argument from cruelty, right? Whatever or not me and you disagree.
Wait, when you
like,
say
obviously me and you disagree because
I'm not familiar with that term. Like, explain
argument from cruelty is essentially argument from incredulity. Essentially, right? Yeah, you know what that is, so I don't have to like define it, right?
Just like explain. Just give me like a vague thing of like what so I know what you're.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So essentially, it's an argument where you derive a conclusion based upon your own like personal beliefs, right, or something that you possibly cannot believe yourself, right? Like a fact, like let's say like the fucking sky is green. You're like, well, I don't fucking think so. I think it's red, right? That's essentially like an argument from an incredulity.
Well, we're talking about
incredulity.
Nigga, it's a language barrier, bro. Stop pointing that shit out. You know this shit is not my primary language.
I was gonna say it's not. Wait, so Forca, just so that we're clear on this, you understand we're having an ethics discussion, so all of like
and I'm getting to it. Can I make my argument?
Okay.
Right. This all right varies upon the definition of what a successful marriage is, right? Because we've already defined like what considers you an adult, physical and mentally. And it all varies depending on the society and places, right? Obviously, like I don't think like a 9-year-old. Never mind. We're past that. Like whatever. Not I believe a 9-year-old currently today will be able to abide by all this, right? But you do realize that the marriage itself with Aisha radiyallahu, right, and like the Prophet Muhammad peace be upon her, they lived, and she was narrating every single like thing they've ever done, and she's repeatedly said that the Prophet peace be upon him treated all his wives right, and all his relationships with these women were a loving relationship. So by the definition of what you provided of what a successful marriage is completely fine.
Okay, so one, not necessarily, and two,
what?
If we're talking about wait, hold on. So just because you in theory could hold on.
It's not in theory. I can give you the text where she said that she was in a loving relationship with the Prophet. Peace be upon him.
Okay. Are you familiar with the term Stockholm syndrome? I don't care about firsthand accounts of like what they think of like potential.
Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah. Stockholm syndrome, like where people.
Yeah, no, I know what it is.
What I'm saying is I don't necessarily like. I'm not familiar with the intricacies of like what Aisha said or anything like that. I'm talking about generally speaking for the purposes of marriage. Like obviously, if like God decreed that this person had like some omniscient thing, I'm talking about like how we derive our like ethics, right? We're not talking about like individual.
Well, our ethics vary.
Whether or not we can apply that. Yeah. Okay. Our ethics vary. So.
But why does that mean that she? Wait, hold on, right? Because this is kind of like this is kind of strange, you know. Like we brought up the definition of what a successful marriage is, but the second I brought up the fact that the very person in question, because we agreed individually they would vary depending on like the parents or people of guardians, right? But the second I brought up,
do you think a 9-year-old
Aisha, I'm not done. The second I brought up, Aisha, peace be upon her, said, "I'm in a loving relationship with the Prophet. I am an equal with him." Now it's a Stockholm syndrome?
I didn't say it was a Stockholm syndrome. I said I don't necessarily trust individuals in relationships to assess whether or not they are in a healthy relationship. We see
argument from incredulity.
Okay, every ethics argument is an argument from incredulity. Your argument
no, because you're saying you personally cannot trust this.
Your argument is an argument from incredulity because everything that you have made is also I believe statements. I believe that this should be the definition of marriage.
I can give you the actual narrations if you want them.
No, but Forca, anytime that we're bringing up belief
that's
statements where
retarded.
I believe this versus I believe that, every single argument is going to be that. That doesn't invalidate my argument. Because it would also invalidate your argument then, because it's all about...
My personal belief system is based upon, is based upon the society that I believe, the society that I live in, or like the religions that I supply by. When I apply it to these like definitions, what in
But that's still your individual choice to value those religions. So it is still yours. Even if you appeal to another thing, that is still your thing that you're appealing to.
Okay, are you done? Can I speak now? Anyways, right? These definitions, right, of like what is considered an adult, what the laws are, what the rules are, right? These I've been given, right? These have been given to me when I subscribe to the religion of Islam, right? So I believe that there's an objective morality, there's an objective definition. When an adult is, there's an objective of everything, right? That's essentially what it is.
So do you want to talk about objective morality really quick? Even if God exists, you don't have an objective morality. You still have your own individual preference for a state. No. Okay, bridge the is-ought gap then.
What'd you say?
Bridge the is-ought gap.
What?
What do you mean, what? You
Dumb it
believe in
down.
objective morality. Okay, the is-ought gap is how can you derive an ought statement from an is statement? So, for example, we can say that, like, God says that something is bad. Why do you have the automatic moral intuition to not do bad things?
What'd you say?
Okay, let's say you say God says something is bad. Why do I have to not do... Why should I not do bad things?
Because God said so.
Why should I do what God says?
Why should you or why should I?
Why should anyone?
Well, I mean, is it a prerequisite that God does exist and everybody's subscribed to to like the religion?
Yeah, I'm questioning objective morality within your standpoint. Yeah.
Listen, whatever or not you follow, right?
No, wait, Forca. My point is, even if you have God, it doesn't entail objective morality. Do you agree with that?
I'm responding, right? Whatever or not you follow and subscribe to the very fact that like God exists, because it's a prerequisite that God exists, right? Naturally, you're allowed to like deny whatever he sends down, the revelations or not, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that morality itself is not objective, because if God exists and what he asserts is good and bad is objective. But you have free will to decide whatever or not you disagree with it.
No,
that's your own opinion.
Yeah, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying why, because morality, right? When we're talking about morals, it's the method under which we ought or ought not do things. For example, there are sometimes good things that you ought not do, and there are sometimes bad things that you ought do, or there are sometimes both good and bad things that are neutral to do.
Or so do you need help?
You might ought do them or ought not do them. So like, for example, right, it might be, good to give money to homeless people. That doesn't necessarily mean that you ought give money to homeless people, right? So just because you say that something is, just because God says something is good, it applies to this as well. Just because God says something is good doesn't necessarily mean that you ought do good things, which is why I'm saying that since morality is how you derive your ought claims, that even if God says something is good, it doesn't change how I derive what I ought or ought not do. So therefore, morality is subjective, because morality is just the method under which you make decisions.
Yo, Forza, do you need help?
Yo, Zizo, can you shut up?
That's what I'm saying. Shut your bitch ass up.
So even if you, my point is, even if you have something that says this thing is objectively good or objectively bad, you don't have anything like for your personal value things. So like you might have like the quote unquote objective definition for, and also I don't even agree with
your personal
and also
value is different
the idea
from what's
of an
objective, right?
And also the idea of an objective definition. What? What did you say?
Your personal value is different from what's objective.
So personal values, would be morality, right? How you make value statements and value judgments, that's your morality.
Jax, everybody's got a everybody's got the ability to do whatever they want, right?
And that's ignoring the fact that you think.
But what I'm saying is, I'm not done. What I'm saying is, right? If it's a prerequisite, this is something that is like absolute, that God does exist. If God sends down what is objectively right and wrong, right? Essentially has a rule book, passes it down to everybody. This is what's objectively right and wrong. If God exists, you agree that God exists, so he governs morality.
No.
Because you choose to sin. No, just because you choose to sin. If you're like breaking if you're doing what's considered wrong and you choose to do repeatedly, that's fine. right? Not objectively not fine, but it's fine to you because you have the ability to whatever decide left or right because you got free will. That doesn't necessarily mean that whatever you're doing is right.
You're not tracking.
What?
Yeah, so again, when I'm making again, when you talk about like, also, I don't believe that, I think that if you talk about things like objective definitions, I think that that's an impossibility anyway. I don't think objective definitions can exist.
We're under the assumption that he's objectively real and like where morality is.
Yeah, I'm saying that like I'm saying that even that entails problems. Like even off of that, like because anytime you say like, okay, well, if something is objectively good or objectively bad, you have what God says is objectively good or objectively bad, and then you have your interpretation of that, which is still within your mind, which means it's still subjective, meaning that all of this is going to be subjective. Even if you have an objective thing, you never will be able to have access to it, so it's all subjective.
What?
What do you mean, what, BB? That's literally how that works. What?
There's like... wait, so you're questioning if like the actual... I'm trying to understand it. Are you questioning if it's objective, like the written stuff by God?
That's what I'm saying.
God can have definitions about things. That doesn't mean that they are that they are necessarily objective.
If the prerequisite is that God exists, then it's objective by definition.
And even if they... Well, no, because again, you can have a different definition of good or bad in your head. Because you can just use words differently.
But God is objective, bro.
Hold on. All right. So Forca, is something good because God says that it is good, or does He recognize that it has the property of goodness?
Something is good because
something is good because God says it's good.
So then morals can be objective, but it's not.
Wait, Demi.
If anything, you just say that He's a reporter of moral fact.
Demi.
What?
Did he like summon Maharaga or some shit? Like, why are you talking, nigga? Can I talk
why
to you guys?
Why did BB join in?
I was gonna say BB did hop in, so I'm allowed to summon. I'm allowed to summon my Maharaga.
Wait. Do I got VC mod to like what's called moderate the VC? We got like 20 niggas in here with perms.
Forca.
Keep it to me and just Jax, right?
So Forca. I'm okay with Demi hopping in because I think Demi has more experience with like.
Hold on, wait. Even then, when I was talking,
please,
calm down.
Hold on, wait. So hold on. So you
please, Demi, please,
calm
down.
Demi, please.
Calm down.
Demi, wait, hold on, Forca. I have one ask.
Bro, I debated Demi on this exact same thing.
I think that this can be an open floor discussion if we can all be non-interrupting and like be chill. So if Demi does interrupt you, and if Demi is chill, can Demi like engage in this conversation, Forca?
No.
Demi, no.
Forca should be.
No, I don't feel comfortable around him. Sorry. No.
You don't feel comfortable around
that guy
him?
said he'd rape women, by the way.
Safe around him, you know, the way he like approaches me in really aggressive ways. No, sorry.
No, but that's what I said. If Demi doesn't approach you aggressively, right? If Demi's not overly
aggressive. If he speaks
aggressive,
to me in a formal manner, then yes.
Okay.
Wait, so
Demi.
Wait.
Real quick, my question. Hold on. So then, my question.
There he goes yelling again.
Wait, no, he's not yelling. Look, listen.
I literally. Okay. All right. So it's okay. You're okay with jumping in and being aggressive yourself, but it's a problem when it happens to you, or someone being aggressive to you, or you jumping in whenever it was a one-on-one.
Repeat what you said. Sorry, my headset like died.
Oh, I said so. It was okay with you earlier for you to jump in and be aggressive and do all of that. However, it's not okay when I do it.
Okay, who cares? From now on, no one does it anymore.
I don't recall like aggressively approaching the conversation at hand.
Okay,
I only spoke up when everybody was
quiet. Conversation. Okay, from now on, we should just be cordial and chill with like how we like engage with this. If we want to actually come to some kind of conclusion. Okay.
I agree.
Might have done it before.
I got a question.
I was aggressive.
I got a question though, right?
Forca, you were aggressive before. We were all aggressive before. It's
whoa, wait, hold on.
Forca, just ask him what he means by objective.
Wait, slow your rolls, right? One sec, right? I personally
mind independent, right?
Objective is mind independent. What I said, right? I'm not really. I never got aggressive into this shit. I feel like I've been the most respectful person here, right? I mean, like me and you obviously, right? Me and you obviously.
Generally, I would agree with that. I did like fucking ear rape your friend earlier. Like I did fucking like turn on my mic.
I don't think he found that nice either. Won't you apologize to Richard?
Yeah, sorry, buddy, but you were defending some crazy shit. But
Yeah, I say crazy shit too because I was heated, just like y'all were.
Okay, yeah, sure. So now we're in like a more open, we're relaxed, we're chill, right?
Debate.
Yeah,
Okay,
I just
from now on,
one
the
thing I
past,
wanted to.
the past is the past, right?
I'm recording this shit no
Future's the
more. Niggas
future.
being cordial.
Right. Are we
Okay.
gonna like
You guys start
continue
back.
this conversation?
Now we can.
Like,
Yeah, I was gonna say. Now that we've established that, can we just continue this conversation?
Wait,
So
before we
follow
do
me when
that,
you
before
post
we
it.
do that, you're Richard.
It's good.
Kiss the mic, nigga.
Bro, what the
Yo,
fuck?
bitches.
Yo,
Do it right now.
Jack,
Do it right now.
continue.
Okay,
So,
so
Jack,
dead
hold on,
ass, do it right now.
BB can. Yeah, so like obviously this means that like.
Yeah, BB, you
unless you're
take
like
over,
a
bro. I've
fucking,
been here
unless
for
you're
like 1 hour,
no
bro.
offense, unless you're like a retarded troll.
I'll take over if you want.
I'll
Yeah,
like.
I've been here for like 1 hour. I'm bored as fuck.
so Jax, your opinion is just what God's morals, like the God, what he says are morally right. That's not objective.
What do you mean by? Wait, what?
Why ass keyboard?
Are you following?
No, I didn't try to make it.
Jax, do I need to hold your hand through the conversation? Okay.
There's a fucking random at the bottom who just mic'd up, bro.
So, do you think what God?
Hold up. I just
What God? What God?
Stop interrupting.
Okay, wait, hold on. I'm gonna say this
Jack,
right now. If you interrupt anyone from this point, we're gonna do talking stick in this room, and then after each person is done talking, okay, we'll figure out who is gonna talk next. If you interrupt people, you just get auto muted and removed from the conversation, or you aggressively apologize over and over. Oh wait, who just said they want to know something? Who just said they want to do something?
That
Who
boy
was
Snake,
Me,
get
me.
that ass server muted.
Me,
Who-
force
yeah.
him, force him.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I just want to say like, wait, B, before you continue, I just want to say one thing, right?
okay.
So since like, what's it called? Since we're kind of like past the whole Aisha thing, and we're talking about objective morality and stuff like that, what objective?
Well, it's gonna
means,
connect
right?
back to it.
Right.
I feel like this derailed.
When we does get to that, right? I feel like we can switch to like me and you. But until then, I feel like everybody can talk as long as we keep like 1-1. Also, I didn't want to bring this up, but I got interrupted, right? What's his name? Yo, Alex, can you shut the fuck up, you faggot bitch?
Where your parents at?
Don't
Where your
ever
parents
ping me,
at?
bitch.
Where your
Don't ping me,
parents at?
fucking faggot
Where your
bitch.
parents at?
Fucking
Where your
loser.
parents at? Where your parents at?
Fucking
Where your
faggot
parents
loser.
at? Where your parents at? Where your parents at? Where your parents at? Where your parents
You're a
at?
faggot.
Where your
You're a
parents
faggot.
at? Where your
You're a faggot.
parents
Still a
at? Where your
faggot.
parents at?
Still a faggot.
Hey, where your parents at?
Still a faggot. Still a faggot.
Can someone mute him, bro?
Alright, go ahead.
Yeah, I muted. Yeah, I muted both of them because.
So
okay.
that guy, no, Forster didn't. That guy was bringing up
What?
personal shit to
Yeah,
try to
no.
be funny when he's
Yeah,
not
that guy
funny.
was. That guy was.
You should get banned from the server.
Hold on.
Anyway.
One,
Niggas should get banned from the server. What the
somebody. I actually have like tried to ban people for bringing up personal shit in the past.
Nigga, all I know is. So you telling me Muhammad was out here fucking the 9-year-olds?
That's what I'm saying, bro.
Okay,
Like,
I can't.
Bro, wait.
If I start spurring, I can't do anything.
We're back.
Wait.
Okay, we're back as spurring.
Yo, Jack.
If Ice does it, I can't do it.
Wait.
Yo.
But look, but God was out here impregnating a 14-year-old. What's that about?
That shit's tragic.
Goku
wasn't
Hey, look, I'm an atheist. I don't like the Bible either.
Hey, all I gotta say is,
Yo, this
never
nigga
fucking Mary, bro. That's all I gotta say.
BB, what about?
Yo, wait.
about objective
No,
morality,
because
though,
he
when
just
we were
said
fucking
some
having
stupid shit. Wait, what'd you say about Mary?
I said a dick was never stuck in Mary. That's all I gotta say.
I mean, wait. That just makes it okay because it's God doing it. So it's just okay.
Yup,
It's not.
It's not.
Yeah.
Okay, number one.
Hey, there was no
It wasn't-
sexual
Number
intercourse
one,
happening.
God
would
That's
never
very
say
that's all I
that.
gotta say.
So
It wasn't
no
a
one can be a
sexual.
pedophile.
Oh my
So
God, I
everyone
can't
can be a
argue anything.
pedophile, but
Are you
God.
guys interrupting him?
Yup.
How does that make him a
Well,
pedophile,
no,
you dumbass idiot?
I can't stop Ice to. It's his server, bro.
Yo, explain how that makes him a
It is-
pedophile
hey,
right
it
now.
is what it
Explain
is when
it.
it comes to
Explain it.
God,
Explain it.
So everyone can be condemned for their actions and pedophilia.
Explain how that makes him a pedophile, idiot.
Yup.
Explain it.
Oh,
He's out
BB,
here
you
sleeping.
religious?
He's out here sleeping with 14 to 17-year-olds. Yup.
Whoa.
So wait.
That boy did not
Prove-
sleep with her, boy.
First of all, God did not sleep with anyone, right? I want you to prove that right now. Go
God
ahead.
actually didn't sleep with them. He magically teleported a baby in her stomach, and yeah.
It's God, you fucking stupid idiot. He's the creator of everything.
Oh my God.
I don't give a fuck what he
Oh
is.
my goodness.
I don't know if you're not following or you're not tracking.
I don't know why you guys.
He's glazing someone who doesn't know him. Oh my
Of
goodness.
course, he can
Whoa.
magically
That Moses
teleport
thing,
a
though.
baby into someone's stomach. Are you
Can I ask you a
fucking idiot?
question?
Of course, he could do that.
Can I ask you a question?
created sex just
Can I ask you a
He wouldn't just
Why
teleport a baby inside of
why
someone's
didn't
stomach.
God just like age up Mary, or just do anything? Like why have her be 14 when he was doing it?
He is all powerful.
Back then that's when people had babies, you idiot.
Oh, actually, that's wrong. Can you prove that?
Is he defending
Prove
God?
that.
He just conceded.
Oh wait,
Just
that's
I
conceded.
will
that sounds
prove
awfully
that.
like the Muhammad argument.
Yeah, prove
He
that.
just
Prove
conceded.
Sounds
Oh my god.
what?
Sounds awfully like
What
the
did
Muhammad
what?
argument.
All right, listen. First of all, you can't show me. You failed to prove your burden. I have to
You're the
hold your
one
hand because
claiming
you
that
jumped.
everyone was
Wait,
just
you're
going
interrupting
around
me
having
because
kids
you're
at
afraid of me.
14.
You're afraid of me. Number
Prove that
one,
everyone was having kids at 14, please.
you know when this was, right?
Can someone tell me that
This was
everyone was having
BC,
kids at
you
14?
idiot.
Okay,
This
cool.
was
So
literally
show
like
me
800 BC.
show me
It was
millions of
before
people
that.
having kids at 14 in BC.
Yes, that's an easy
Okay,
burden.
yeah.
That's in
So
VC.
show it to me. I'm
Yeah,
waiting.
wasn't they fighting like Tyrannosaurus Rexes or
Wait,
something
but
like that back then?
so do you? So Kruos, do you drop the claim you made?
I'm waiting for you to prove to me that millions of people were
Move
having kids.
on. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll prove that.
Dog, it's been like 5 minutes, dog. You said it was easy.
First, you have to prove your original burden.
Show me. I'm waiting, bro.
Are you not going to prove your shit? All right, I dismiss it and then I'll prove mine.
Okay,
Okay,
so
that's
what
fine.
does this have to do with Moses?
Exactly. I just said a simple thing that God is out here impregnating 14 to 17-year-olds and
What do you mean by impregnation?
Oh god.
put a baby in a virgin who was 14 to 17.
So she didn't have sex, you idiot. That's fine.
This guy
What does
retarded.
that have to do with anything I just said? She was
So-
pregnant regardless.
So yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
To you. to you.
Why
There's
would that
nothing
be
wrong
wrong?
with that.
To be honest,
You're making the claim it's wrong, so prove it's wrong.
The definition of pedophilia is
Yo,
being sexually
I can
attracted
prove
to
it's
minors,
wrong.
and
That's
you
not
can't
what
prove God had a sexual attraction to Mary, therefore get the ball.
Prove it's
I mean,
wrong.
if you want to get,
BB,
yeah,
you've been
wait.
talking
I think
mad
if you
shit
want to
on my
get someone
objective
pregnant,
morality
that's pretty
thing. We should
sexual to
run that
me.
at some point. If you
Yeah,
think that objective morality
I'm
is
just
the
asking.
case.
Look,
Is it not? Is
Wait,
it not sexual for you wanting to get someone pregnant?
I asked a simple question. Why didn't God just age up Mary? It shouldn't have been a problem.
No,
Everyone's human.
Everyone's
human. Everyone's human. Come on.
Why didn't he just age up Mary or wait?
God is not a
Why not
human,
wait?
Chad. What the
Couldn't
fuck
wait
is that
3
guy
years?
talking about?
He couldn't wait 3 years.
Yo, why is everyone like miking up and having a carnival show out of this? Where I'm just trying to talk to one
Can
person.
someone answer
Can I
my
talk to one
question?
person?
Why couldn't God wait 3
You're
years?
asking. Here's the issue. Here's the issue. Why would listen? Why would
It is
why,
open discussion.
Why do you guys keep just yapping? when I'm trying to
If
talk
God,
to
if
you?
You're
God
the
is
same
omnipotent-
person who interrupted Jax
Well,
earlier
hold
when
on,
them
hold
and
on.
Forka were
Yo,
debating.
Kruos,
Shut the
Kruos,
fuck
do
up,
I have the
bitch. You're not
permission to
special.
keep talking in the VC?
I'm hopping on
Kruos?
my computer.
Leo, you have any permission?
Hey, also, one more thing before we continue. Again, I want to say that Leo that's talking about Muhammad being a pedophile, that is not my argument.
Yeah,
that is
we
not
know.
me. This is
We
two
know.
separate
No,
Leos.
that's you, but that's
Please,
you, buddy. That's
That
you,
is
buddy.
not me. That
That's
is not
you,
who
buddy.
I am.
That's not
That
him,
is
bro.
you. That is you. You're the
No,
same
not
it's
person.
fucking
not.
Okay,
Kilo.
wait, BB,
Yes, you
BB,
are.
wait, BB, can you prove this? Though I'm still waiting.
I'm still ready to prove the 3 claims you made.
Can you, bro said everyone
Because
at
you're
14 was just
presupposing it was
pregnant,
immoral.
bro.
Prove it's immoral. Go ahead.
Who was talking about that? I'm
Because
talking to you.
everyone makes mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes.
I like that guy. I like that guy.
You can't
Everyone-
follow.
God didn't oopsie.
So my question is, if God is omnipotent, why couldn't he just wait 3 years instead of impregnating the 14-year-old?
Mic now, little buddy. Time to
Why
give you the
didn't-
Nolo treatment, like how Nolo hopped on his real shit and
Why
bitched you.
didn't God just
You
wait
forgot
3
about
years?
that?
Why is he getting so angry, Chad? This is a normal talking shit. This is a normal conversation. Why is he getting so upset?
While BB is arguing, Kruos, I can actually answer that question for you. I can answer that question for you.
He's trying to loud mic.
Niggas be ready
You
to
fucking
die.
idiot.
Why is he getting so angry? Why is he
He's
getting
trying
so
to loud
Can
mic.
anybody hear what BB is saying?
He's trying to loud mic, but it failed, bro.
We get that,
Kruos,
Trunks.
I can actually
You don't have
answer
to
your
say
question. Why
about
you
Fuck
couldn't
up,
wait
pussy,
3
I'm not
years?
talking to
I
you.
can answer your question.
Shut up, bitch. You mad 'cause
First
you dead.
off, first off, time is money, nigga. That's number one. God understands this, right? So he got papers. He got
Can you
bills to
mute
pay.
someone so I can actually talk to someone who's actually going to make a real argument?
Elglaze.
Okay.
Age of
Okay, then if anyone wants to step up and explain to me why God, the omnipotent being, is going to wait 3 years instead of impregnating
Why
a
are you
teenager,
avoiding the
someone
issue, Ista? Why are you avoiding the issue?
What is he yapping about?
What is
Someone
more
explain
about
to me.
that?
Someone explain to me if anyone
get that
wants
guy.
to. Okay, I'm gonna finish talking.
Are you going to respond to the conversation or are you going to keep running with
If
your tail
anyone
between
wants
your
to
legs?
finish,
What's going to
if
happen?
anyone wants to answer my question, anyone who's Christian in here, can you answer why God, who's omnipotent, couldn't just wait like 2 to 3 years instead of impregnating
Why
a
would he
14-year-old?
wait, bro?
Because she was 14.
Okay.
Because she was
Wait,
14.
time is money.
Don't say
Omnipotent, though. Why would he wait? Why do you say that's him
That's
being
my
white?
point. That's
Okay,
my
you're not
point.
muted anymore,
My
by the
point.
way.
What's moral about it?
That's my
He
point.
didn't. He did. What do you think he means by impregnation? Because she was a virgin still.
My
You idiot.
point is saying why do that to a 14-year-old and rather than an 18-year-old?
So number
Hey,
one,
as like an actual Christian, I gotta say I can't answer that. Like I
Cruz,
just,
I mean, I wouldn't be able to answer it
can't
too
answer
if I was a
Yeah,
Christian.
Cruz,
I
do
would
you know
answer
that?
it.
Like,
what is wrong with
there's
it?
no bias, no nothing.
Wait,
I just
wait,
can't
one
answer
second,
that.
one second.
I haven't
Personally,
even.
I think
And,
Ohio State maybe
Let me
reboot
speak.
right
Let me
now.
speak.
go ahead, Forca.
Kruos. Impregnation, right? Entails that there's like some physical, what's called penetration, but she's a virgin, right? She's the Virgin Mary. She never got impregnated.
I said that 5 times and he
wait,
can't go through his skull and he can't freaking respond to anything. He's so stupid. I don't know if he knows his left ass cheek or his right ass cheek. So I want you to reply to this
No. So what I
rambling
said.
ass stuff. Reply to the
Okay,
conversation.
he's yapping. Shut up. Okay, what the
Yeah,
word
let
that I
Ice
used?
speak, bro.
Okay, the word that I used for it was impregnate, and then again, here I'm looking at it right now. It just says make a woman or female animal pregnant. That's like the base word for it. The verb is just
That's
make a female.
conventionally.
Wait, what he's saying, that means he's not
Wait, chill,
entailing
chill.
that there's penetration. That's what.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm not entailing.
Ice is not
obviously-
making the claim that that
hold on,
God like
Forca,
fucking
Forca,
blew
'cause
Mary's back
obviously-
out. That's not his point.
Let me finish talking. Let me finish
Can he
talking. Okay.
speak? Yeah.
Okay, Forca, because obviously, like I'm hoping everyone here knows how like Mary was actually like gave birth to Jesus. That should be obvious. But like obviously, we know that God didn't bend her over and give her back shots or something. We know like how it happened was something else like supernatural to that case. But I'm simply saying
Yahweh
that
shots.
yeah. Yeah, but in this example, I'm saying that he impregnated her under the context of the verb, which is just that he made her pregnant. But my thing was saying, okay, well, Mary at this time is around 14 to 17 years old. Why couldn't God simply wait till she was 18 or do it at a much better age? And then I haven't even, before I even got into this, right? I haven't even gotten into like the effects of pregnancy, because I can really break down like menstrual cycles and brain chemistry for everyone in the VC and have like an hour-long conversation about why that's actually wrong. Like a kid at what pregnancy does to a 14-year-old versus what pregnancy does to someone who's 18 or like 20 is vastly different. Like in terms of trauma, like I can write a paper on that shit, what it does to a 14-year-old girl. Like you guys have no clue what that does to a 14-year-old.
Can I respond now?
But go ahead.
All right, thank you. Right. So first of all, right, as said, like, I just gonna respond to like the impregnation part, like the impregnation.
As a devout
impregnation,
Christian,
like,
Forca.
I'm not a devout Christian, but like I love. Yeah, I'm saying like I love Mary. She's the best woman, right? What's it called?
My mom's
As
better,
what's it called?
but okay.
As impregnation, right?
Yeah, she is.
Appreciate it, go.
What the fuck? Yeah, but yeah, that was crazy. I can't lie. But impregnation, right? I said like the definitions that were brought up, like they entail physical and what's called penetration. But I understand why did he not wait 1 year? Why did he not wait 5 years, right? But honestly, I think it's because like God in itself is just like God himself is just inaccessibly like more intelligent than me and you. So obviously we wouldn't be able to comprehend like his logical like views.
I mean, hold up, pause.
Like,
Sometimes God just be doing shit, bro. Like the one.
That's what I'm saying. Like
sometimes God just be doing shit. Like
these arguments. Hold up, this stems from like the question, right? Because Forca, all of these arguments I'm aware of, and everyone else should be aware of the whole pulling the God is omnipotent, all knowing, he just transcends everything, so it's okay for God to do it, but we're not allowed to do it. Like we couldn't understand why in this instance it was okay for God, because he's like infinitely transcendent above. Like everyone already is aware of this. That's not my point. My point is saying that with that being said in mind, right? Don't you think that with all these things that are being pointed out in society and people throwing around the words pedophilia and like these certain instances, right, and these words that we use to condemn men, right, God could have simply changed his actions to fit something that we aren't currently condemning men for? Because there's a lot of things that, like, for example, somebody brought up like the lamb's blood and going over, and basically how God is supposed to be forgiving and doing all these things, but he was going around essentially tormenting men, essentially saying that he was going to kill them and unalive them if they didn't do these actions, and et cetera, et cetera. And there's tons of other things in the Bible I've yet to mention that are just kind of like condemnable that he's judging other people for, but people do it today to other men, and it's looked at to be like wrong or, you know, et cetera. So
we get it.
Right.
So after
Let
that full
him
ass
speak.
fucking yap session that he just spit out, Let's ask him one question. Prove that she was 12 right now, and I'll give you $500.
I never said she was 12. What is he asking
Yes, you
about?
did. Yes, you did. You're not
Not what
following
I
the
said.
conversation. You
No,
can't
BB,
remind me.
BB, he said 14.
You said
14 to
12.
17. Said 14 to 17 like a
Okay,
million
so
times.
prove she was 14. Go ahead. Because you said 12 at one point. The 12-year-old girl.
Never said 12. I don't think anyone in this VC
I was gonna say, BB, I'm not. I was gonna say, BB. Even if he said 12, he has reiterated multiple times 14 to 17 over the past. So like,
Okay,
maybe he
prove she was
misspoke or
14.
something. To
Prove she was
17.
14.
Wait, he
Prove
also
she was
he had
14.
an age
Prove
range
she
of
was
14. Wait, BB, relax. He said age range of 14 to 17.
I know. I just don't. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to be relaxed
it
if
being
he's
14, bro.
Wait, guys,
Hey,
chill. Wait, Kruos, can I ask you a question? Like,
what's up?
Will this conversation affect our friendship?
No, I don't give a fuck. What the fuck?
No, he doesn't care about disrespecting other people's religions. We clearly know
This
this.
is okay. Hold on. Pause. Hold up. Let me go ahead and clarify this, right? So, for one, I hate to pull this part, right? But my grandfather is a pastor and a minister who owns several churches. So you're not going to sit here and like lecture me on Christianity for
Dude, I wish you would tell him that. I wish you would tell him that you're saying this voice. He would fucking disown your stupid ass if you said some shit like that to him.
Why is he getting so angry?
Hey, you're getting angry.
You're attacking his religion.
This is what I mean. This is what I mean. I'm not attacking his religion at all. That's what I mean. You're getting defensive and you're oppressing somebody who's questioning your faith. Exactly. Part of Christianity.
You don't feel attacked? Wow, you're not a real Christian.
Oh my god.
That's not what being a Christian
I'm
means,
just gonna
by the way.
start muting people.
My bad,
Shut
go
up.
ahead.
Part of the religion in general, something that's extremely faith-based, is the fact that you're supposed to be allowed to question these things and point out these things, right? You're supposed to be forgiven of these things. You're supposed to accept questioning and criticism and critique of your religion without feeling insulted or taking it as disrespect. Somebody can go in and say this is the case and that's the case. It's not attacking, it's questioning. And you're supposed to be a devout Christian that's supposed to lead these people to the word of God. That's part of your job as a Christian. And I'm telling you this as a pastor's grandson, you fucking idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. You're
committing blasphemy, you fucking dumbass. That's straight up blasphemy. It's not even a real question. You're just doing it to try to commit blasphemy. You're not genuinely trying to understand.
Yeah. I'm not
more knowledge because I asked you questions and then you dodged the question like a fucking bullet, you dumbass.
Quick question to everyone in the VC. Did not say anyone can answer my question. If anyone had an answer, and Leo said, I don't even know. And I said, does anyone have an answer?
You asked, any Christians in the chat.
So I clearly
presupposed four different things, and then I was asking you to break it down, and then
oh my god, listen to me. Obviously, I've had this topic done like a million times. Obviously, I'm not sitting here trying to debate you on the topic. Obviously, I included everyone to be able to give me their opinion or take on it because I wanted a greater understanding. Hence, me asking everyone. If I simply wanted to beat the crap out of someone and had a debate or laugh at it, I would have did it to one person. Me questioning everyone and allowing them to give their input and insight obviously detects the fact that I want some type of truth added to the conversation or some type of understanding. If you can't understand that, you might be retarded.
I'm the one who can't understand, but you're avoiding the issue like a fucking plague. That's what the fuck you're doing.
Yeah.
I asked you 4 different questions, and then you just ran around, started fucking like running around like a horse in a fucking staple. That's what you did.
Dealer? Who's your blood?
So, that's a red herring. So anyway, are you going to respond to anything?
Who's your blood?
Are you going to respond to anything?
I literally did. I'm kind of just waiting for anyone to like explain to me. I'm like,
I asked you 3 different questions because your argument presupposed 3 different things. I don't know if you hopped on like trend and it fucked up your mind, even though you're still kind of small, which is kind of surprising, right?
What are you
actually going to answer what's
he talking about?
That had to be the most corniest shit I've ever heard in my life.
Wait,
dog.
BB, you're saying that his argument like presupposed things. He didn't have an argument. He asked a question. That's not an argument.
He didn't. Like his question presupposes things.
No, his question didn't presuppose anything.
It presupposes that Mary was 14. It presupposes Mary was 14
through
17. That was
17.
one thing with this question.
So
and
his
I'm asking you to
question
prove
was, why
that.
didn't God do this later? He's asking.
Prove it in the
so
Bible.
if you want to say like, oh well, his question presupposes that this thing is wrong. He doesn't even necessarily do that. He's asking why did God choose to do this thing in this specific way. So that doesn't even necessarily entail that Ice thinks it's wrong. He's just asking why it happened in the way that it did.
All right. So you're asking. I'm kind of confused.
There's a thing that happened. I know because you didn't listen to what I said.
No, you're not following. His original claim was she was in the range of 14 to 17 years old, and he fucking brought that shit up like out of his ass. I'm asking him to prove because he keeps referring to 14-year-old.
What he asked was, BB, why did God right, do this to someone who is 14 to 17. So if you don't think that Mary was 14 to 17 when this happened, that is like a thing that you
Yeah,
guys
that's
can talk
something you
about.
could like add on.
And
You
then
could correct me
also,
and say she's not
and then
this age.
also, when you start
I'm
talking
asking
about
him to
like
prove that.
presuppositions, right, for like, morality, what you were saying earlier, it doesn't necessitate, like, what ICE asked doesn't necessitate any sort of moral
If you want
claims.
my
It only
basis, hold up.
presupposed that one thing.
To add this to add this on to what Jax is saying, so like if you have information that says that she wasn't this age, then you could do so. But if you want my what's it called, my reasoning for assuming she's 14 to 17, it's actually giving her the benefit of the doubt, because if we go online right now, we Google like the average age that they were having children at that time, like you said earlier, it was like 12 to 16. So me even saying 14 to 17 and extending it beyond that range and the average age that these women were getting pregnant, it's a fair assumption. There's like several historians who are going to assume the exact same thing, or some people say even more ridiculous shit. People are saying she's 12 online, and I don't believe that shit. So me saying she's 14 to 17 is a very terrible age range for that time period of when she was actually pregnant. It's not like I'm just sitting here like lowballing her age to like oblivion and like trying to give you some like
left,
crazy
Ice, he left.
No, he's
okay,
back.
wait, Mike,
Did you miss
so,
that, BB?
if I heard it, so if you genuinely want to have a conversation about this, then I'll answer it in a genuine way. Okay?
What do you? No, there's no need to question. That's what I've been doing this entire time. But my point is saying that I'm not lowballing her age. I'm saying
we can agree to disagree. I'm gonna answer the question.
Okay, go ahead.
So, yeah. So the reason why it was at that particular age, right? I don't know if you agreed. I think you did in that, like, when you went off, that the average age where people gave birth was around that when she gave birth, right? Do you agree to that? That's like the most probable
Like, yeah, it was
time.
like 12 to. It could be anywhere from like 12 to 16 ish, like around there. People are having babies, correct?
All right, yeah. So it's based around the lifespan, right? That's why they gave birth so young back then. It's because it was based around her lifespan, so she could be there to properly take care of him and raise him up. Because he did get raised. He was raised like a human.
I'm aware of the life. I'm aware of the life. I'm aware of the whole lifespan thing around people, like why people were having children at a certain time. But I don't think that necessarily corresponds with maturity. I don't necessarily think that's okay.
And this is like also like presupposing that he didn't pick Mary for a reason, right?
I mean,
like,
again, that would like I'm fine with assuming that it's possible that Mary could be like some glitch in the matrix that was just way mature and could handle these things. But with that same value being said, you could also presuppose that she wasn't, because there could just be two equal claims. Like, I don't think either proposition is more likely.
All right, I can prove it to be more likely if you want me to.
Well, I don't offer the fact. I'm gonna give you my reason before you say that. My reason is I don't think it's more likely because God has sat there and had millions of people going around fucking at 12 years old who were like severely immature, didn't have developed brains, were doing that. So I doubt that.
So, number one, the whole mature thing doesn't matter because they had a certain amount of lifespan to reproduce, right?
That it does
And
matter.
then-
You're arguing.
Yeah.
No, you're.
Oh my gosh, this dude
This isn't
to
me
like
disagreeing
interrupt
with
people.
you. This is no, because I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm doing this to like save progression of time throughout this conversation. I'm saying your argument is going to be off of lifespan, saying that this is why they were doing this. Hence, this is like okay because of the life. I'm not arguing that. I'm saying I understand why they were doing it. I understand that they were doing this because they didn't have the life, BB. I'm saying for me personally, that doesn't deny the fact that it's weird. They could have a reason because, hey, we're not going to live that long, but you guys still aren't developed either. That doesn't change you guys not being developed. We can all die at 40. That doesn't mean I'm gonna if every human being on the planet Earth right now dies at 40, do you think it's okay for 13-year-olds to go out and fuck each other? Hell no. Everyone in this VC is gonna say no.
13-year-olds, yes. What? Each other?
No.
Yes.
No. You're agreeing with
Oh
that.
my god. Oh my god. I can't believe I just heard.
That's, can I explain?
My goodness.
That's not that bad.
Wait, hold on. Wait, can you repeat what you were saying? Hold on, can you repeat what you were saying?
13-year-olds
I didn't even
having,
hear what you
can I explain before everyone just like mics up and dick sucks? If 40 years old becomes like 99 years old, where you go and just fucking go up and die, like it becomes like the average age of death, then the average age of conception would also change when people would have babies, right? So
I don't see an
issue with
inherently
that.
the case.
Because you guys are all like appealing to incredulity. You guys didn't think within the thought experiment. That's why everyone mic'd up and went,
No,
like she did a huge
your
slam.
argument,
It doesn't prove anything.
no, your argument is literally saying because, like, okay, so in the hypothetical, I suppose, which was that every human being on like planet Earth, like adults, only live up to like 40 years old. Your reasoning for assuming that like the age at which we all start reproducing would be like significantly lower to the point where it would drop down to like 13, it would be like viewed to be okay, based off the fact that we're trying to like populate or like have enough people to live to said age, right? And then you're trying to base that off of like what was going on in like BC and the fact that why they were doing these things. But the whole argument that I'm arguing is no, and no. My whole argument is saying no, and the reason why it's no is because back then in BC they didn't have the technology, they didn't have the research, they didn't have the scientific or medical advancements to know that our brain and these things weren't functioning. They didn't have the capacity to understand these concepts. They literally weren't developed enough. They didn't have those things to know that. And I'm saying that we do now. So magically, if every human being on this planet only lived to 40, that doesn't mean that everyone would be like, yeah, let the 13-year-olds fuck. Whoa. Like, no one's going to do that. Everyone's going to feel it's weird still, regardless. Everyone's going to say, no, we're not going to sit here and bang 13-year-olds. What? That's dumb.
So,
we're way more intelligent than they were.
So I don't know if you know this in like reality, but I don't. So you're saying the 13-year-old and 13-year-old, even if there was like this crazy age like shutdown where people die at like let's say 30 or 40, right? They shorten their lifespan that much, then they should not ought to do it.
Isn't the average age of living like 75 though?
I'm saying
it's such a weird scenario. It doesn't.
I'm saying it wouldn't be okay. I'm saying it wouldn't be okay, BB, because they still aren't like because of the immaturity, because of these gaps, and because I'm lacking this development. It wouldn't be okay. That's what I'm saying. And I'm not referencing. And by the way, I'm not just referencing 13 and 13. I'm referencing adults with a 13 because back then it was adult. It was mainly the men. Because people don't like. Somebody pointed it out in chat earlier, but whenever it came to like BC, everyone likes to point out like in the old times, like everyone was like a pedophile or like there was like 50-year-old men just sleeping with 12-year-olds left and right, and that's not actually what was happening. Most of the time, what was happening, it was from like the wealthier people, like the richer men who had the money, and they were going around and doing that because there was actually people who did view it was wrong, or there was men and women who'd be like, "I don't want to give you my daughter. What the hell is wrong with you?" But then they would have to do it to the notoriety or to those people of those status, and then they would give their children away. That's not something that
I mean,
everyone
you could even look at like ancient Greece for an example, because the Spartans, granted, there was a lot of kids fucking, but it was kids fucking other kids. Compare that to the Athenians. The Athenians, they let the old men fuck the kids.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like it wasn't. I'm not saying that like 13-year-olds wouldn't just start banging and be like, "Yo, we got to hurry up and get this kid out before we hit 40" type shit. I'm just saying that in general, that adults wouldn't go around sleeping with kids just because the age capacity was lower back then. That's my logic. My logic is saying back then they didn't have the scientific and medical tools to know that they weren't like developed and what they were doing was wrong. They didn't understand things for like life wise, like philosophy wise, like everything. They just weren't in tuned enough to know that being 40 sleeping with like a 13-year-old, no matter what, is wrong. Well, nowadays we know that it's wrong.
It's a different like conversation now, right?
Well, it's not, because that's part of my problem. My question lied in a problem with me questioning God's morality on the issue of why he couldn't just wait a couple of years for it to be okay. That was my question.
But the first issue was you brought up 1313, right? Now you're bringing up 1349.
Well, no, that's the point. My point is, God obviously is transcendent above age completely. He's older than anything. That's the entire point. The point stems from the fact of simply saying, why couldn't he just wait to do this, right? Why couldn't he just wait to do this to this girl who was 14 to 17? And I didn't even finish going into like what pregnancy actually does to women, let alone what pregnancy does to 14, 13-year-olds and like these younger girls, because it's even worse. It's like infinitely worse than what it does to a grown woman. So what I'm saying to you is, when God sat there and he had this pregnancy for Mary, and he did this to Mary, and what it affected her with medically, and what it did to her, on top of the fact that it was like, you couldn't just make it be an 18-year-old. Why could it be a 14? Like, why couldn't you just wait this time period? He chose it right then. The argument in its most simplest form, BB, which you should know and everyone here knows, is, well, God just did it because he's God. He's transcendent. Like, the rules of morality and these things don't apply to him, hence he just did it. But then my whole thing with that was saying, okay, we all understand that, but then there's certain things that God condemns men for with immorality, and he tells them not to do, that if we were to do them or we condemned other people for, they would be viewed to be immoral. Like some of the things that he demands, if we were to do it and we demanded other people to do it, it would be looked at to be wrong. There's a lot of hypocrisy, is my point.
You lost me, bro.
Bro, you need to just answer. Like, you just go on like a fucking paragraph, bro, with no fucking like
It's not
periods or
really.
punctuation.
I'm expanding my question to you because you questioned what I was asking you. I don't think it's that complicated to understand. I'm gonna be honest.
Like, now I have to like fucking like go over 4 different things. Okay, so number 1, can you just like restate the simple question? Because like you literally just, I think everyone here would agree
The simple root of the question is, why couldn't God wait till Mary was older?
Yeah, and I answered this. It's because of the lifespan of how they aged. To get like the full thing out of her, like her motherly thing, because people don't live that long back then, right? Jesus was like a grown, like she had to get raised Jesus, right? So she had to be around that certain age to raise Jesus.
That doesn't really change my whole thing, because my point is saying that realistically, a woman who is that age, who is pregnant, in terms of her brain chemistry, in terms of her trauma response, in terms of her decision making, all of that is infinitely lower than a girl who'd be like 18 or 20. The gap between Mary being 14 and 18 isn't that much in years wise, but it is that much in experience, mentality, and emotional response wise.
Can I talk about more? Can I talk about more for a second?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So then, like, there's also other things like God wants Jesus to be in like the shoes of everyone back then. So that's when like the average age was back then. I don't think we both agreed, like at least around some range like that, right? So to give him the most realistic experience of being a human, because it's supposed to be God sent in human form, then he would need to be raised like that. In that instance, with the mother even doing that, because some people, like, I don't know if you are you a Catholic or a Protestant? I don't know.
I'm agnostic.
Or like your grandpa, for example, what is he a preacher? Like,
he's just Christian.
Probably Protestant, right? USA, as he's in the US. So yeah, Protestant. Okay, but yeah, the Catholics believe that like Mary is like even more special. If you want to get into that, like let me pull it up.
I really don't like my main thing to you is simply questioning why she's doing, like, why the whole aspect of not waiting these like couple of years, which aren't insignificant, and then like your newer argument which you presented, which was like God wanted Jesus to essentially walk the shoes of man and be similar to man and whatever like that. That itself, that's like very wishy-washy and 50-50, because while that is true that he wanted Jesus to share these experiences with men, he also used Jesus as a tool to point out the flaws in men, which is constantly throughout Jesus' journey. He points out the flaws in men, the immorality in men, and how men should walk and how men should lead and what they should do versus what they shouldn't do. So yes, he could have put them in like a human experience to be like, yeah, you could have this mother, but the gap, like what I'm saying to you is like timeline wise, right? Like someone being born from a woman who is 18 is not that massively different than being born from a woman who is 14. The only gap that it does change is the emotional maturity and the complete development process of the woman. So my whole thing is to you saying that like God's decision making right here, it's completely illogical and completely irrational, but that's part of what God is supposed to be, right? Like sure, he's supposed to be illogical and irrational, but my whole thing is when you go that way and that route with that argument, it just points out to more hypocritical things, from at least from the way that we're viewing it. It just comes off as very hypocritical.
So you think the action of her giving birth at that age is immoral?
I think him deciding to do that, not necessarily her giving, because that would be dumb, because every woman back then would be immoral then. No, I think just him choosing to do it, to like him with all this knowledge and power that he possesses, and him knowing that she wasn't fully emotionally developed and she didn't have these tools and things just like everyone else. I think him doing it that way, was just kind of like unwise and just comes off as like weird.
So you think the the all-knowing, omniscient being didn't know if she was emotionally developed or mature enough to handle it?
Well, my reasoning for thinking that is because other people at that time were doing the exact same thing, and they were all emotionally undeveloped and immature. So yes, I don't think he did.
Your argument is a probability argument that shows that Mary isn't ready for something like this. This is the whole point of your argument.
Correct. Which is why I'm saying if you're a Christian and you're following the ways of God, the cop out of this conversation is simply saying, well, God doesn't have to be rational or he doesn't have to appeal to possibility. You can just be beyond that. Mary could have been this one outlier. There's a lot of things that you could do here. But my point is saying that when you go that route, there's so many things that we can point out that God does to where you can just be like, oh, well, he's just above that. Oh, he's just above that. And then there's things that comes off as contradictory or things that men do in the same way that God would do it. And it just comes off as man is bad versus God being good. And that's because when you're Christian, you have to argue from the standpoint of God defines morality. As I think Demi or somebody else brought up in the conversation like an hour ago, somebody was talking about that. So God basically just decides whatever he thinks is good or bad.
That's not what I was arguing.
No, I'm not saying you were. I'm just saying that that's what
a lot of people do argue stuff like that, and I don't really agree with that. I think we could use something like justification, for example, like which I'm about to use, right? So God has all knowledge. Do you agree that omniscience with like an all-knowing God in Christianity? Do you agree with that?
You said what?
Do you agree of like an all-knowing God in Christianity?
I agree that that's what some Christians interpret him as. I don't agree that that's necessarily what's the case.
Okay, I'll pull that up real quick.
Like that's definitely what some Christians appeal to, that God is all knowing. Do I think he is necessarily, or according to them, no, because I think that to even make a claim like that, it requires a certain set of knowledge that I don't think man possesses. So I think it's like men who are fallible, who don't have the knowledge to speak on things like possibility and God's existence and God's knowing, would be speaking on something that's beyond their existence and knowing. I just think it's incredibly contradictory. Like you're speaking on something that opposes identity and our realm of knowledge while using our realm of knowledge. I think it's just extremely hypocritical and contradictory.
Yeah, that's why we use something called the Bible, which was written by the Holy Spirit. Right?
Well, yeah, and then that same thing appeals to what I'm saying, because that just goes down time, context, and people using like word of mouth. And
the quote. This is one quote that says, "He knows all things. God is greater than our heart." And
and then again, you have to believe that that's the case because someone said it was the case.
We're arguing within like, dude, if we're arguing within like the Bible right now, why can't I use the Bible?
No, what you're failing to understand is I'm not saying that you can't use your source. What I'm saying to you is saying that all of this is going to go back down to the word of man, right? It all leads back to the word of man, and I'm not even going to like debate Goon and argue like historical context and proving the scripts, right? Because I think that word of men is a form of historical context and evidence. So even if we use the word of men and men wrote the scripts, man wrote the Bible, etc., and this is how this was formed. What I'm saying
by the Holy Spirit, yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what I'm saying to you is that man's word who wrote those words and claim that that was the will of God or claim that this thing is true is all going to come down to things that is within the realm of possibility or epistemology or knowledge. It's all things that we believe to be true.
So, I don't even know what to say. This is just so stupid. So, you keep referring to like man written the Bible, man, but you need to remember all the men who've ever like written something in the Bible are endowed by the Holy Spirit. Do you know what that means? To be endowed by the Holy Spirit?
Well, yeah, that's because they claim they were correct. That doesn't mean that they actually were.
Now we're arguing over something outside of the Bible, right? Because yeah, I believe the religion through faith-based observations, like faith-based like a posteriori knowledge, right? That's why I believe in it, right? I don't know if you've ever had a similar experience with that. It's uncommon for a lot of people to have like a personal experience with God, because not a lot of people have that, but that's the reason I believe it. But I don't know, if you want to go into like if God exists, this is a whole other question than what we're originally discussing.
But that's my I get the whole argument of essentially arguing that, and I'm not even gonna get into that or like question like faith and try to like get you to like that debate's like super overdone. My whole point is simply saying to you this, that when we're making claims on things that are beyond our understanding, it's kind of impossible to make those claims without being fallible because it's beyond our understanding regardless. And that's something that even as a Christian you have to admit. A lot of the times as a Christian, you don't have the answer for everything. Hence you have to turn to God for the answer, or you'll turn to praying, you'll turn to these things to try to guide you to the truth. And one of the paths of Christianity is, again, like not knowing everything and researching and studying and devoting yourself. Devotion is a huge part of it. So when you don't know these things and you go seek these answers, you might be brought to the answers, or you might never. Who knows? But that's all you can kind of do is just devote. So my whole thing is saying that I just think that his decision at the time, from an outsider who's no longer Christian, somebody who's agnostic, right? I'm saying that his decision making in this instance just eventually becomes really hypocritical from an outsider point of view without using like blind devotion or faith context and being like, well, the Holy Spirit did this and that. I'm just saying that using logic and things, it just appears to be very irrational of a decision, and it just doesn't really make sense. Not saying you can't justify it with like your beliefs or whatever.
Yeah, okay. I think we both like just yapped on. I can give like a quick like, I don't know if you want to just close everything up in the convo. I just like to do that when I'm done, but I could just go on like a little thing right here. So like the whole reason I brought up if God was all knowing in the first place, as stated multiple times in the Bible, which he challenges in the first place, which I don't think really matters in this conversation, but the whole reason I brought that up is it just absolutely demolishes his whole probability argument that Mary probably wasn't ready to give birth just to a child, right? Because if God is all knowing, he would have the knowledge if Mary was ready or was not ready, right? Compared to like all the others, because her age is also ambiguous. It's also one of his probability arguments. So I just think this whole thing just gets defeated by the fact that God knows all, so he would know what's the right thing to do. Because I don't know if Aista agrees to him being a maximally great being. Or do you think like, wait, Aista, do you think anything under God like he does is maximally great inherently because he's God?
To me, no. If you were a Christian, you wanted to believe that, then sure. But to like me, who's not Christian, no.
Okay.
You're essentially like the whole point is saying that you're gonna argue under two different truth systems because yours is gonna be faith based and based off of religion. Mine's isn't faith based and based off of those things. So the only thing that we can do to get to a common truth is agree to like the most ground zero basic form of logic, which is what we're using to communicate, like things like sentence structure or foundations or how evidence is formed, etc. So like there's ways that you can converse with someone that doesn't believe in these things.
Yeah, I know. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
But I hope you understand that like the probability argument that you push forward is just does not work here, because a Christian will just bring up the fact that if God knows all, then he would know if she was ready in this certain instance, right?
My response to that was kind of like earlier. I already said it, but I can just regurgitate it. But it was just basically me saying that the whole argument of saying that God knew if Mary was ready or not, I viewed to be very irrational, regardless of you arguing, well, he's beyond irrationality and things like that. I viewed it to be irrational because God already had multiple women who were 13 years old getting fucked by grown men who were 40, and it was viewed to be okay. Well, no, okay, no, obviously, no. Listen, let me finish. What I'm saying is, it's going to turn into a will argument because obviously men have their own will. That's something that he did within his plans. Within Christianity, men have their own will. They're doing that. What I'm saying,
God had us all to do that.
Can you listen to me? Can I finish talking so you can kind of get the basis of where I'm going? What I'm saying to you is, God knew that men have their own will. Women essentially have their own will. He gave us free will. So obviously the actions that we take according to Christianity or faith-based would be that men get to decide their actions and etc. But my thing is saying, right, regardless of this, there are things that we can prove are intrinsically true with basic logic, foundation, or biology. So for example, a woman not being developed and a woman not having the same intelligence, like Mary when she was 14, isn't the same emotionally as Mary when she's 18. That's just something that's intrinsically true. Me saying that in this case, men were going around at 40 years old, fucking 13-year-olds, right? I'm using this logic to explain that this whole age expectancy thing was, like you were saying, which was everyone was dying at like 50. So we might as well like sit here and get it how we live. Let's try to reproduce and go crazy, get a young girl, etc. Blah, blah, blah. But I'm saying that they didn't understand brain chemistry. They didn't understand power dynamics. They didn't understand that these things were wrong. So because that's the case, I'm saying God does know those things. God does know that human beings would not be further developed until they're 18. God did know that Mary at 14 is not as smart as Mary at 14. Mary's period is not the same thing as Mary on her period when she's 20. It's just definitively true. And so because of these things, I'm saying God choosing to have married to have the kid at this age, right? Regardless if she was okay, she would have been better at this age. My whole point is saying that
You know more than omniscient God.
You said what?
You know more than the omniscient God.
Well, that's my whole point. I'm saying that your justification, you already have your justification if you're Christian. Your justification is simply going to be, well, God is, again, omniscient. It would just fit. He'd be above these things. That's all you have
He
to
would
argue.
know. Well, yeah, I'm going to argue that he would know what was
Well,
best for
yeah,
Mary
that's
and
what
what
I'm
the best
saying.
age
So your
was.
argument,
You're
I'm not.
making, it's your
Go ahead.
knowledge versus God's knowledge. That's basically
Okay,
what it's going down
let
to
me
right now.
finish. Okay, let me finish. My point to you is saying that you already had your answer. Like your answer from the start of this thing, but this whole thing was to prevent, not prevent. This whole thing was to incite conversation, to let people give their own answers and try to use something with a logical foundation rather than just a purely foundation. So yes, and I'm not saying either way is wrong. I'm not going to demean anyone's beliefs. What
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
saying to you is, right, you relying on your belief of simply saying, well, God is illogical, he transcends all these things and blah blah blah, so it's okay, right? I'm not denying that, or I'm not saying that, even though I don't believe in it. I'm not going to get on you for believing that and point out why it's dumb, or like try to go on like this tangent about contradicting his knowledge or something like that. What I'm going to do to you is simply say that with these things that we can use in the real world, the way that we condemn men would be looked at to be wrong, and we would be all tormented or scrutinized or judged from our peers. But there's a lot of things that God does in the Bible where it comes to tormenting or judging or doing these things, and he's viewed that to be good, or it's morally permissible. That's what I'm saying. So my whole
Would you
point
like
is
to
saying that
bring
you
some of
don't.
those up too, if you want to?
I did earlier, but I can restate it. The one
Yeah.
thing I said was like, so the first example would obviously be this justification for why this, like, getting this woman pregnant at this age was okay, regardless if he directly had sex with her, because we have other ways to like inseminate women at 14 besides just having sex with them, like sperm banks, and there's other things that we could do to just impregnate women at this age. And then obviously people looked at that to be morally wrong, but in God's eyes it was justifiable because of what he was doing with Jesus and etc. The other one was the whole lamb's blood thing, like somebody pointed out in chat, like people wiping their doors with this, and if they didn't do it, they would all be killed and condemned. If we were to do something like that,
Can I
we'd
explain that?
be tied. No, I'm not saying I already know all this. Your explanations I already understand. My
Yeah,
whole point
but
is
I
saying
also
that.
want to like explain this to the VC because if you just like,
Okay. Well, yeah,
just
sure.
throw it out
If
there.
anyone doesn't know, you can explain it to them. Go ahead.
Okay, so there was the angel of death, right? And then there's like these wicked, evil people in Egypt that are enslaving people, treating them like shit, and just like were stated to be evil by an all good creator. And then God told his followers to put lamb's blood in your door so the death angel knows not to fucking, death angel you because you wouldn't be evil by doing this. So all his followers did that and wiped the blood on the doors so they wouldn't be killed like the evil people who did get killed, who were the wicked generation. There was like, and I don't know if Kruos is going to bring up like the Greek, like the I don't know the word for them, but they had the Holy Land before the Jews.
Yeah.
Were you going to bring that up too?
No.
The Sicurians or something. I don't know if you know about them.
I know what you're talking about, but no. But like my whole thing was saying that I'm aware of his actions and his justification for it, but I'm simply saying that there's other ways he could have protected people rather than condemning them to their own sins. Like he essentially says, "You must follow my word, or essentially die." And during a lot of instances, and I'm not judging him for that. I'm just simply saying his whole entire essence of being forgiving and someone who is supposed to forgive men of their sin, right? But then there are several choices to where he puts you in a black and white scenario, and you have to do these things. You have to take these actions from him, and you don't get that chance of forgiveness. So, for example, if I just happened to live back then, and I was just like, well, I'm questioning my faith, and let's say like my mother died or something, and I was extremely depressed back then, and I was just struggling with trying to figure out what I wanted to do in my faith in general, right? And I was like, I don't know. I'm questioning putting this lamb's blood on my door, and I didn't get to make that decision in time because my mom died. I now die and perish in the name of God because I didn't believe in him during the time of questioning my faith. Like, do you see how like that can be a little like?
There's a difference. There's a big difference. The only unforgivable sin in Christianity, right, which would warrant something like the death god coming out and taking your ass out, right, is true blasphemy. There's a difference between normal blasphemy because you can be a blasphemer, right, and then later on follow faith, right, and have true forgiveness and true repentance. That's like a big difference. Is true repentance where you truly accept God into your heart.
Well, he
And then,
already
like,
knew.
for example, like, God wouldn't take you out. Wouldn't just, like...
Well, you were, because if you didn't do that at the time, you were dying. That's the whole point. If you didn't wipe the blood on your door, you died.
So God has knowledge, right? God has knowledge of who would do this and who would not. So he could.
No. He has the knowledge.
Do, right?
I already know what you're gonna get into. So he has the knowledge, but he wouldn't be able to act no matter what because he already decided to give men free will. So regardless, they were gonna do whatever how they wanted to. So he could know who was gonna do it or who's not gonna do it, but he wouldn't be able to affect or change the result.
Okay, he gives us free will until like there's a wicked generation that's stated in the Bible. We have free will, but he does step in if there's a wicked generation where all the generations are completely like coming in and they're being
I disagree.
It's stated in the Bible that
I disagree.
Repentance, the Antichrist will leave these evil people with evil marks, and then he'll bring all the people who follow God into heaven. So he knows who's going to be evil and who's not before they're even fucking born, right? He has the knowledge of that. They still have free will, but he still knows.
Okay, hold on,
if there's a wicked generation, then he's going to step in and take them out.
Okay, pause. No one is denying that he can't pop in for like these instances and like save the people or lead them to heaven or these things. I'm saying that at the end of the day, the choice is made by men or choices made by men. So if I was again back there at that time, right, and I didn't do this action, it's not like God's going to step in specifically for me because I was depressed and conflicted and I couldn't make the decision to wipe the blood on my door, so I just happened to die. That's my whole point.
You're making this weird analogy.
It's not an analogy; it's a claim.
It's not an analogy. So you actually went back in time, forgot to wipe the lamb's blood on the door.
The analogy.
So fix yourself.
Okay, no. Let me clarify for you so you don't get confused. I'm saying it's not an analogy under the precedent that I'm not sitting here trying to make a comparison for God. I'm saying that I'm more so claiming that this is what happened because his words were, "You do this or this happens," right? And not everyone at that time was wicked. So he knew that the people who would listen to him, who would listen to the word of God, essentially would be saved and they would be free from persecution. What I'm saying is that there are people who could question his beliefs, and because they were questioning his beliefs or his ways, whether it was because their mom died, whether it was because they were sad, plus we have free will. Somebody could have just been depressed that week. It could have been anything. My point is saying that they wouldn't do these things and hence they would be persecuted.
It wasn't like that back then, dude. It was either the Jewish people, the followers of God, who did that and trusted him and believed him into the lamb's blood thing, or the Egyptians, who were these evil monsters who were enslaving the people of God and just spreading false gods.
This assumes. Wait, hold on. This assumes things. I already know what you're gonna say. My point is saying this assumes that all Egyptians are bad and assumes that all Jewish people are good.
It's stated by the omniscient God.
No, it's not. Not all Egyptians were bad at that time. There's no way.
Fuck the Jews.
Yes, there's literally no way to prove that at all.
Yes, there is.
I'm telling you. Okay, if you can show it to me right now, show it that all Egyptian people were bad.
Yeah, the omniscient God killed them for being evil.
Yeah, he killed every single Jew. I mean, he killed every single Egyptian.
Yes, who were not praisers of God.
No. You see how you just said who were not praisers of God.
Oh my gosh, let me explain something, bro. Because you can't contextualize anything within anything. When I mean Egyptian, I mean the followers of Ra. Not the Jewish people who were also Egyptian because they were born in Egypt. You fucking moron.
That's my point. You literally my point is saying that because these people didn't believe in his way and they did this specific thing, those people who were enslaving, those people who were doing these things, these were the people that were punished. But my point is saying that there are Egyptian people who didn't do these things, right? And who might have not followed his way, and they would still be punished if they didn't wipe their door with lamb's blood. That's my point.
Because it's shown back then in Egyptian society that they all accepted these evil acts as normal. They believed that it was normal to have enslaved Jewish people.
No, there could have been some. There could have been some or a lot, but there's no way to prove that every single person at that time who was Egyptian believed that. There's no way to
because
prove that.
The omniscient God knew it.
There's nothing that says that at all.
Yeah, God is omniscient, and then he killed all the evil people. So what?
Like this is this whole point. My point is saying he killed that. You can say he killed the evil people, but my point is saying that there are Egyptian people who are not evil. There are Egyptian people who could question the wills of God and be punished because they're simply questioning it. That is something that you cannot deny about Christianity. That people can be punished for questioning Christianity. That's the whole point.
Okay, number one. They would only be punished if they commit true blasphemy. I've said this 4 times. That's the only reason why they came. So number one, true blasphemy is when there's no chance if you ever bring in Jesus into your heart. You put Jesus or God down. There's no way you would accept him in any way. That is true blasphemy. You die not believing him. You die a blasphemer. right? That is what true blasphemy is, and that's what he was punishing.
You could question. Oh my God, you could question these things happening in your life. Like I can go my life living a life, right? I can go. You can go an entire life essentially living and acting and doing things. Everyone's gonna have these moments where when I say everyone, before we get into debate goon territory, I'm speaking generally. So everyone's gonna have these moments, right, of when they have these questionable moral action, because everyone, like, that's part of being a Christian too. Like everyone has like sinned, or everyone has committed sin. Whether you are forgiven for it, or you ask for forgiveness, or another thing, is completely different. What I'm saying is there's going to be people that commit sin. There's going to be people that do these things, and people that question these beliefs. And when they question these beliefs, right, if they go their entire life without ever turning their heart to Jesus or God, what happens to them?
Okay. Number one, if you don't believe in God, you don't accept God into your heart, you become a true blasphemer. That is the most unforgivable sin. It is the most evil thing you can do. Number one,
that is not true.
Yes, it is.
You just change something. You just change.
Let me. You gotta let me speak though. Okay.
You can go ahead and I'll correct it, but go ahead.
Okay, you're not gonna correct it because you're lost in the sauce. Okay. So
I don't think so.
So number one, this guy is questioning if the all-knowing God can use these little thought experiments that he put into question already. You think God isn't thinking about? He's all-knowing. He knows all. Number one, let's say there was an Egyptian who was tweaking out, right, and having a breakdown because he doesn't know if he should accept God, right? Like one of the Egyptians, like the Ra. I don't even know, because there's a big distinction between the light versus yo. Aren't have like this questions about biblical God, because there's the Jewish, and then there's these Egyptians that believe in the cat gods. Do you understand that? Those are two distinct people.
I'm aware. You can just kind of get to the point so I can correct something, but
wait. So can you correct this? Correct it.
What I was going to say is the part about saying like what happens when you question God, right? So if you lived a life of like sin, which what essentially almost every human does, like every human sins like once in a while, you asking for forgiveness is a completely different thing. My point is saying that there are humans that can commit sin and humans who commit these actions, right? And they can never ask for forgiveness or God for a lot of reasons. It could be that they were never shown the way of God. It can mean that there could be, again, people who are in a third world country right now who don't have the places to go to, or they might not have anywhere near them, and that's the last thing that they have on their mind, and they have committed sin. So essentially I'm saying that there are people who are questionably faithful, or people with questionable faith to God in general, right?
Yeah,
and if they don't have this belief in God, and they never were shown the way of God, right, or they never simply what's it called, got the chance to, it could be that they were depressed and they started to question all these things, and the world itself just doesn't align and allow them to show, like, it just doesn't align with them to kind of resonate with some of these things, right? What I'm saying to you is that God is condemning and God is judgmental to those people. He 1000% is, despite these people having free will and free actions and abilities. Now, does he condemn all of them? Okay, I was going to say, does he condemn all those people to hell? No, not necessarily, because at the end of the day, they will be judged for those actions. So what happens afterwards?
You answered my question for me. Okay.
Okay, I was going to say, so what happens afterwards is completely up to him. So whenever it comes to the final judgment of where you're going, according to Christianity, of whether you're going to hell or whether you're going to like eternal damnation, that's something that God will review.
Yeah. Okay. I don't even know why you brought all that up if you're just going to answer it for me. I was kind of
the point that I was essentially going to lead up to is saying that it comes down into this person who is beyond our understanding. So essentially, we can have all these people create these sinous or immoral actions, and some of these people could possibly be pardoned by God. Some of these people could possibly be condemned by God, and we would never know.
Yeah, but I would trust the all-knowing being.
Yeah, and you could do that out of faith. No one is disagreeing with you. I'm just pointing out.
There's not a logical reason with it. There's not a logical issue with it, right? There's not a logical issue.
Well, for you, there isn't, because you're somebody who's
a logical issue.
Okay, no, for you there isn't, because you're somebody who's appealing to the fact that he is all this. For me to point out the logical issue to you, I would have to contradict your God's existence, and that's a completely different conversation that we discussed that we don't even feel like getting into. Because I can have a 30-minute conversation with you about why God's completely contradictory, God doesn't exist, and I can try to dismiss God's existence to you completely. But that's completely like are relevant to this conversation. We're just not going to get anywhere because my job is to you is not to prove to you that your God doesn't exist.
It's
My
to
job
prove
to
it's
you is to
contradictory, yeah.
yeah, and it's to essentially allow truth seeking because even if I did change your mind and by the end of this discussion you were like, you know what, he has a point. There are some contradictory things. I don't necessarily want you to stop being Christian. I just want you to look deeper into your faith because maybe you can come back in like 30 days or something and then you get me with a new argument. I'm like, that actually makes a lot of sense. That's like my whole entire point. My whole point is truth seeking. I'm essentially saying that like these positions and some of these things they just appear like a little irrational and contradictory. I'm not saying you don't have things to fall back on or whatever. You can't say like, you know, like he's omnipotent or whatever you want to say. I'm just saying that there's a lot of things that are just very faulty and fallible.
1 second. I'm responding to someone to check. Yeah, I think we're just coming into like a impasse here. I don't even know like what more we can talk about.
Get him, BB.
Put your own scholars. What? What is this?
Well, 9. What? Well, 9.
But yeah.
Old fundamentally. Bro, yo, that boy Snake, bro. What do you believe, bro?
Oh wow.
But yeah, that's
This dude,
essentially
that boy
Snake,
Snake. What do
you're
you
not
believe,
needed no
bro?
more.
who? You
What's
guys
a
are
snake,
clueless.
A 9-year-old adult. No, I'm just not gonna respond to that. But I said, what made you leave
Agnostic?
Christianity? Yeah.
So essentially, I'm gonna give like a brief like summary, but basically it was like I told you, my grandfather's a prime minister. I'm like an elder. He owns like several churches, manages them and everything. He travels like every other week. And when my mom was growing up, she like raised all of us in like again Christian household, Christian beliefs, etc. Then we had like a bunch of things happening in my family, moving, different experiences. Obviously had like a really rough childhood, a lot of things happening. And because of that, I end up moving around a lot and getting to experience different cultures. So then essentially my mom went looking to like Buddhism. She went looking to like there's like a Jehovah faith. She went looking to like all these different like religions and things for her truth and her cause. And I ended up essentially just researching. So it was like for like maybe 2 years, I would like reread the Bible to the point where I read the Bible like 5 times, right? And then I got to the point where I was like going through like different religions, different scripts. And then I got to the point where I found like there's a common denominator. And I definitely believe that it's possible, where I do think that there is something, but I think that a lot of religion and a lot of these things that people are claiming from men are extremely fallible. And I think there's a lot of like contradictory claims. And I'm fine with anyone seeking their truth, but I don't inherently think that their truth is the truth. Hence, I kind of resonated with an agnostic position because I'm like, yeah, I believe that, you know, God could be true or God could be fair, but I also believe that the man or the ways of like humans and men is very fallible. There's a lot of evil, there's a lot of corruption, and there's just a lot of like things that are just bad. And I'd rather come to like my own senses and discover my own truth. So that's kind of like where I got to where I am right now.
Yeah. Okay. Did you ever talk to your grandpa about it?
Yes, I've had like multiple conversations. I've had like there was like this one time like he had like this friend came out, like he had like some elders because they go around like they're like the state wise. They have like the whole thing. This people who own like the state churches, and I went around and we used to have panels and shit. And I've had like an entire debate with like a 1-on-5 with these motherfuckers one time, and to the point where even one of them was like, let me go ask like, you know, Elder Richard or something. And then he like left and he like went to go ask for more questions so he could like re-up and come back and like, you know, rediscuss something with me. But like I've had these talks like a million times.
Good. So I have a question now, like a genuine question about your safety. How does your head feel after being like caved in so hard by like my elbow?
Oh yeah, you're delusional. Oh yeah, you're on fentanyl.
Yeah, BB, you put him on a chokehold and then killed him. He's dead.
You have a question. As like a Christian, would you like me to get you an ice pack to put on your forehead because I see like a huge dent that I put in there?
You're on fentanyl.
Wow.
So average Sigma Christian handles atheist beta.
Yo, BB, put your hand on screen right now. So
Where'd you
shaking
get
hands.
atheist from, bro? Just shifted from agnostic to atheist.
Oh no.
Sorry, if it's the narrative better. My bad.
Yeah. Facts.
Yes, it's like WWE shit, bro. You gotta sell.
Yo, fuck Kruos, bro.
Wait, Kruos, are you a moral anti-realist?
Not necessarily. No.
I don't even know what that nigga said. Could somebody dumb it down?
He said he asked if I was a moral anti-realist.
You just repeating what he said. Dumb it down.
Oh, like what it means?
Yeah.
So essentially that there's like no objective moral values or normative facts.
Damn.
Okay, dumb it down again.
Oh, this nigga, bro.
You don't believe that anything. You don't believe that anything is inherently like morally wrong objectively. You could say that it could be looked at to be this way, or it could be looked at to be this way.
Yeah. Sugi, how old are you?
Wait, what?
Bro, like, question for you.
Yeah, I'm 17, but
who the fuck you trying to impress with these words, nigga?
What's up? What's your next question?
Anyone,
yeah, my question is like, if someone like flicks lips, right? Does it like ripple like gunshots?
Okay. What's the other guy's question? The guy, what you saying?
Yeah, I was gonna say like, so do you think it's like objective?
Like what morals?
Yeah.
No. So my main thing is I align with some things from like moral anti-realism, but then I think that there are like certain things that can be looked at to be morals in general. It just depends on the way that people define morality, which is typically what I go after. Because the issue with a lot of people, when it comes to like moral subjectivity, is that people have like their own landscape or things that they like to use to like objectify, or things they like to claim are their moral systems. But then a lot of the times these moral systems just turn out to be truth systems, and they're not inherently things that are like moral based, in my opinion. So I just think it depends on your definitions.
Okay. Makes sense.
I definitely do believe in some objective truth, though.
Are you a moral particularist?
Am I a moral particularist?
Yeah, I can explain it if you don't remember, bro. But...
Please do for the audience.
Are you a moral gay man?
For the audience.
Yo, mute Blaze. Blaze a troll. He's a troll. Mute him right now. Mute him. Mute
I'm not trolling.
Mute that bastard up. Mute that bastard
up.
Bastard is crazy. I can't lie.
But no.
Mute him.
Yo, BB, we're still friends though, right?
Shut the fuck up, you Spurg. What?
Yo,
Let him explain.
Yo, mute that bastard.
Yo, BB, are we friends?
Shut up. Someone put the timer.
Yo, yeah, we are definitely. I think so.
Yeah. We run it here, bro.
Yeah.
We all chilling for real.
But to answer, okay, to say, wait, is BB still here?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. But to answer your question, no, because moral particularism is essentially like what's it called? Like the morals that you use in an instance has to be like defined or like expanded on, and there isn't like necessarily a set of rules or code. It's like what you use, like the system you create.
Yeah.
And mine isn't necessarily like that, because I definitely think that there's a basis for it, and I don't necessarily think it always has to be expanded on, because I think that there's certain things that we kind of just have at birth, or like as we grow, that are just kind of like naturally there, things that we just kind of believe as human beings, or things that we can kind of like
intuitively,
resonate.
right?
Yeah, intuitively, yeah, correct. But yeah, so that's why I kind of don't think that's the case. But I definitely think that there's some ground. I do think that there has to be some things that are expanded on or defined, because the way that we gauge the universe, the way that we gauge what's like acceptable or non-acceptable, typically grows with us, because we're constantly evolving. So
yeah, you can also look at it like this: like intuition also supports supports it as well, because like, have you ever argued with like a vegan who hits you with like 500 thought scenarios?
Yes.
Like name the trait.
Yeah.
Moral particularism literally defeats that, because like, for example, when they bring up like, when they compare like a fucking cow to a human who's a vegetable, right? Moral particularism could just like snip that in the butt pretty easily, because intuitively, if you put a cow in a room and you put someone who's like on a fucking like bed in the hospital, and there's like a fucking boulder hanging out like over two of them, right? Everyone's gonna point at the fucking cow to get smacked with the boulder, unless you're like a vegan dumb fuck, right? And I think that's due to moral particularism.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I said. I think those arguments are fine. And I think there's some, like I said, that's why I said like I think there's some ground with them because we expand over time. But I do think that like for me personally, I don't always rely on that. But I've definitely used those arguments or things like that, like people being like the whole. So wait 1 second, but I was gonna say it's like people saying like the whole a popular vegan argument that used to go around was essentially like the whole ant argument and being like an ant has more sensory capabilities than like a fetus, and then you can go into like those things that they would use and just being like, oh well, because an ant has more sensory capabilities and more cognitive abilities than a fetus, if I was to like ask you to step on a fetus, would you do it? Would it be wrong or etc.? And then people would be like, well, no, I step on ants all the time. I do it for free. I do it for X amount of money. But if I told somebody to like, kill a baby or look at something like that, typically their argument would shift, which just kind of stems to show that everyone inherently, like humans in general, are just kind of selfish, and they do have a base for moral particularism inherently, like just with other humans. But I think that it stems at a certain point. So when you kind of get older, you develop a logical foundation to where you can realize and like kind of distance yourself from that selfishness. But
wait, BB, what if someone like just rejects intuition outright? Like he says, "Oh, I reject your intuition. I don't give a fuck about it."
I don't think intuition itself is a justification at all, right? Because I don't think if you were born in Nazi Germany, you should believe in Nazi Germany, right?
Yeah,
or like stuff like that. So I'm okay with people like them missing intuition, but we can't lie that it plays a factor on morality.
Yeah,
we can dismiss it, but it definitely does.
Because like if leader. Oh my god, bro. Anyways, BB, right? Because without like intuition, like how do you go about justifying a moral
Here's the
particular
thing, like you without intuition, you can't have any morality, right?
Yeah, to an extent.
Dude, like how I don't even understand how we could like if we put someone in a white box, what would their morality come to? Like fucking pain bad? Is that going to be like their basis for morality? That's why people do use something like tuition. Arguments are all tuition based, and then like have like at least a little bit. But if you were like, if I'm saying that my morals are justified because of my intuition, that's not a justification. For example, right? You could even argue that's begging the question straight up, right? If that you challenge my moral view, right, and then I just say, oh, well, it's there because I just think it is, right? It's what society showed me it to be. That's not an argument. That's just me saying it is because it is, right? That's why you gotta include stuff like justifications. You gotta bring all that shit up to actually defend it.
So like, what else would you use like, to justify like a moral particularist position if it's not just intuition by itself?
There's like,
well, it would be what like because it also can be things that you're like indoctrinated into in familiarity. It doesn't just have to be intuition because you could just say that like something that you're familiar with. So like in the instance of humans, the reason why a lot of people would say like, oh, like which one's more valuable, a fetus or an ant? You're most likely going to say a fetus because you view the potential of human life to be something that's more valuable than just an ant. You don't give a fuck about ants because you see them all the time. It's something that's super familiar to you versus like life is something that we're groomed to be and indoctrinated to be so important, and the potential aspect of it is like infinitely more important. So yeah, it doesn't just have to be intuition. It can just be like familiarity or like things that we're shaped into like believe are important.
Like so to add on to something like that, you can bring this up to a vegan and just see like how they just get like folded. You could just say like, so people are inherently immoral just by living because you walk outside. It's like you know how many like ants people accidentally step on per year, or insects? Or like let's say if your house was like infested by like termites, right? And then we all name the trait as valid. Do we just like get up and just start moving our houses because they're there? Like when's like I don't understand like how you can even be a vegan. Maybe you can argue vegetarian, maybe, but vegan is just fucking stupid.
That even then, like I would say, even like a pescatarian position is even better than like a vegan.
No, there's nothing wrong with being a vegan. No, the vegan being vegan, I would actually say like like a fun fact, my brothers, like both my brothers used to be vegan. They were like vegan for like years, and then eventually they stopped, and sometimes they went back, whatever. And I had to like eat vegan stuff and learn a lot about it. And then I got to the point where I was going to get certified to be a nutritionist. Vegan actually has a lot of arguments. And I'm going to say this too, regardless of how anyone feels. if you ever got into like an argument with like ask yourself, or you ever talk to them, like I like had a conversation, like a debate with them. If you ever got into like a nutritional argument with them, you probably get slammed on your neck. And that's not saying that you can't beat them in a debate or you're not better than them or whatever. But like it's because they do just have better things that they can argue. Or you arguing like plant protein and stuff, like from a nutritional aspect, they're 1000% right.
Oh, I
The
understand.
issue is when I was gonna say this before you talk, but I was gonna say the issue with them is when they go into the moral veganism argument and they start comparing like life and like, you know, aspects of people caring and trying to like the value of lives and animal life. That's when you get into like a moral argument, and then they kind of shift from like their overall decision. If somebody who just wanted to be vegan because they viewed it to be like, I don't know, like more healthy or something, and they were arguing it was superior, that'd be a far better position than just being like, you know, like
animals is wrong.
Yo, there was some very there was some kind of funny shit, right? I was seeing this guy argue like why the vegan diet is the best, right? And it's more moral and helps like justify the morality of it too, right? Because it's like better for your body. And then some guy asked him a question that like completely put him on his forehead. He was like, so what about people who were alive 400 years ago who didn't have access to like the supplements that are needed for the vegan diet? Do they just like die? like 500 years ago, what are they supposed to eat if we ought to be vegan?
Well, yeah,
There's
I mean,
no vegan supplements.
that's a case of, but like I said, like that's why, like, if I was to argue for veganism, I would just argue on the fact that it's more nutritious and it's better. But then the adder up to that and the counter to that adhesively is simply saying, well, why don't I care if something's nutritionally better? I just think this tastes better, and this is also nutritious. It doesn't have to be as nutritious as the vegan shit, but it's nutritious still. But then, like I said, that depends on like how you're arguing in contention with whoever you're debating for like a premise, or like trying to premise trap and be like, well, being vegan is better than this. And then you guys would just argue on a tangent upon, you know, the different aspects that one is better than the other, and then somebody trying to prove that it's better in more ways than the other way, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. But I just think that whenever they bring in moral arguments, they typically just lose their position and it becomes like really retarded. Plus, like one thing about them, like I was talking about the nutrition argument, I'm not even gonna say it's inherently true, but from the research that I've done, like I can definitely say that a lot of vegans just nutrition shit slams. But the problem is too, the only reason that's probably the case is because niggas just don't care, dog. Everyone eats meat for the most part, to the point where like people aren't intentionally looking into these things the way that vegan people are. That's like their whole livelihood. So them knowing these things and having all these statistics and data is like what they live for, right? But like a lot of the times, like the meat that we eat, or like chicken or protein and shit, dog, we'll have like discoveries like nowadays, and we've been eating some of this shit for 100 years. We'll just now have a discovery on like a burger or something, why it's like bad. Like they'll have data on like plant shit for like forever, dog. Like they're constantly investigating, looking up this shit and trying to better themselves.
Yeah, Kruos, I have a question as well. Like, if you're like debating, what do you think of like the name the trait argument that like vegans use? By the way,
I think
do you even like entertain it?
I don't think that it's inherently wrong, but I think it's self-defeating because you can just kind of premise trap or to get them to contradict themselves.
Really? Like, what do you mean?
You can kind of like again, like being from the position of asking somebody to name the trait, and then let's say somebody does name a trait, or they just kind of shift it into like a logic foundation debate. Like whenever people do that to me, or I've ever debated a vegan on that, I just go into like a logical truth foundation of being like, okay, you're gonna essentially get me to name this trait. We're gonna go off of like pattern recognition or what we believe to be the case or to not be the case. And then if we do that, I can just point out how like your logical foundation or what you base morality off of isn't inherently true. You can completely just shift it on its head and or like moral subjectivism, and then argue like why is these things inherently wrong, and then you're gonna get like an emotional vegan response to them like raging and being like angry because you know you would kill like a patient on their deathbed or something, or like they just completely rage out. Like
they appeal to like their personal intuition of what's right and wrong. Like they say the word reductio ad absurdum like 400 times, even though they don't know what that shit means. They think that like, oh, it says it's something absurd. What, absurd to you? Who the fuck cares if it's absurd to you? Anything can be absurd to you.
A reductio, like like inherently contradictory. Like that's the point.
It's a contradiction or absurdum, but then the absurdum can just be the contradiction, right?
So, like absurd in itself just sounds subjective as fuck. Like for example,
That's what I'm saying.
if I say right, like the trait for like it separates humans and animals is because animals taste good and humans don't taste good. You can if you say that's a reductio, like why is it a reductio?
You know what humans taste like?
It tastes like pork, and I hate pork. No, I'm trolling.
It's like, or I could say it's intuitively unattractive, whatever, right? It tastes bad. And then I say like, oh, that's a reductio. Why? And like, you just